35-year-old musician, Chris Reese, is suing his ex-roommate, 20-year-old marketing rep Belinda Pena, for having him falsely arrested. Belinda says Chris threatened her.
Order. All rise. Hold on for a second. Who keeps helping me?
Whoever keeps helping you, throw them out.
That's what I was going to do. Hold on.
Perfect. Just pick the right person.
Your Honor, this is case number 207 on the calendar in the matter of Reese versus Pena. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Mr. Reese, you're suing the defendant because you claim she had you falsely arrested.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you know Miss Pena before you rented a room in her house?
Yes, I was living with a friend, and they live in the same gated community. And the friend I was living with was about to go on tour for 2 months, so I needed a spot to stay until I found another spot. She offered her room for rent, you know, for a month or less.
So you knew her from...
The friend, yeah.
A friend, and you had socialized, you had...
Yeah.
According to your complaint, she agreed to rent you a room in her house.
Right.
And that was sort of in, I think it was in mid-May that she agreed to do that. And you paid her rent, $375?
Right.
Did he pay you any rent?
Yes, he paid me $360.
$360. Oh, so I was off.
All right, my bad.
And then she went away for a while on a weekend or something, and lo and behold, her parents come home.
Right.
And find you sleeping in their bed,
Well,
like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And they said, in effect, who the hell are you? And what are you doing here? And you explained to them that you had rented a
room
from their
daughter.
And they said, we don't like that.
Right.
So at that point, Miss Pena, then she comes back, and she said she had a fight with her parents. You did have a fight with your parents.
No.
Your parents wanted him out. Fair statement?
Yes.
And you said, I'm paid up until the end of the month. I'm not leaving.
Correct.
One thing led to another, and Miss Pena asked you to leave. According to your answer, Miss Pena, you said to him, look, you have to go, and I'll give you back your money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I don't want my money back. I need a place to stay till the end of the month. You said, I'll even give you money to go and stay in a hotel, right?
Yes.
And he said, I'm not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes, that's true.
And then you started arguing.
Mm-hmm.
You argued for a few days.
3 days.
What were you arguing about?
Okay, Tuesday, that's the day I came into town, and my parents told me what had happened, what they spoke of, and that's when I confronted him about exactly what had happened. I asked for his side of the story after my parents had told me. So at that point, he told me that I was lying about what my parents had told me, which was that he had paid $575. And at this point, they were very displeased at what had happened because he had lied to them in their face.
No, they were displeased that you rented him a room.
No, that's not how it was.
I want to know what you were arguing with him about.
We were arguing because he denied that my parents said that he was going to pay $360, which is what I had told them.
He had already paid $360.
Exactly, but he had told them that he was paying $575, so that's why I confronted him.
Excuse me?
Monthly.
Monthly. And he had given you $360, but that was just for 2 weeks, madam.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, get with the drill with your math. He paid you for 2 weeks, $360.
Yes.
So is that what you were arguing about?
Yes.
For 3 days? What prompted you to go to the...
No, we weren't.
I'm speaking. Then you said you were arguing nonstop for 3 days. So that's... Now you've told me what you were arguing about. And since you were arguing and he wouldn't leave, you went to the police.
He threatened me on the 3rd day of our argument. So
How
I
did he
filed a
threaten you?
complaint. He told me, while we were arguing in the morning, a friend happened to call me on the phone, and he heard the way that...
What were you arguing about?
We were arguing about the same situation we had been arguing for the past 3 days.
Why didn't you just leave him alone and let him work out his contract, because he'd already paid till the end of May, and let him leave?
Because my parents wanted him out of the house because he had lied to them. So that's why I offered him money so he could leave early, because we...
He didn't want to leave early.
Okay. And
That I'm asking you why you went to the police. Now
He
you were going to
threatened
tell me that.
He threatened me.
How
and
did he
told
threaten you?
me
What did he say?
that because after I had spoken to my friend on the phone, he told me that if I had anybody try to get him out of the house, that he would take care of me or he would handle that situation with me. And I had never said I was going to do anything of the sort. I was trying to get him to leave civilly. But that's why we were arguing, because I couldn't do that. So he said that if if I try to have anybody escort him out of the house, that he would handle that situation. So I went and filed a complaint.
Why?
Why? Because I felt threatened. He was being very hostile.
Go ahead. So you went to the police and you filed a complaint.
Very
I want to see a
condescending.
copy of the complaint that you filed. First one. You filed 2 complaints, is that right?
No, just one.
Oh, really? I read your answer and it says that you filed 2 complaints.
No, I never said that.
Oh. You say in your answer, madam, that you were arguing for 3 days, so I decided to go to the police and file a complaint. Later that day, we argued again. This time, he threatened me by saying that he had a gun. I called the police, and they came and arrested him.
Yes.
So when you went to the police the first time and you told him this baloney story, they did not come and arrest him. Is that right?
No, all I did was file a complaint against him. I went to the police department.
Okay, fine.
filed
And
a
then what
complaint.
happened? Fine. You filed a complaint.
The following.
What's next?
The same evening,
Yeah.
he came home and we started arguing again, and the argument escalated.
What, just a
whereupon-
second. He came home and...
And I-
Shh. Pay attention to me. I'm much smarter than you are. I got it. He came home, walked in the front door. Where were you?
Sitting on the couch.
What did you say to him or he say to you?
I asked him if he would decide to leave early.
So you started with him and you said, I want you to leave. He already told you he's not leaving. And he said what?
He said that he wasn't going to leave, began degrading me and insulting me again. At that point, he told me if I had anybody come and try to escort him out of the house or advise him to leave, that he had a gun upstairs in his room and that he would use it if it was necessary.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Your story was totally different, by the way, in your complaint than what you just testified to, because you're so stupid you can't even get your facts straight.
And later today,
I had been putting money into their account because I was filing for divorce from Mr. Minks, and I was trying to hide the money from him, so...
Babe, you can't do that!
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Chris Reese says ex-roommate Belinda Pena had him falsely arrested. Belinda says when she asked Chris to leave, he threatened her with violence.
Yes.
Now, at that time, they're saying that I said I had a gun. They had already taken all her and her friends. I took all my stuff out the room and they wrapped it up in a blanket with my TV, DVD player, clothes, and put at the end of the stairs, tied in a knot. So when I was driving home in a U-Haul, because I was going to pick up a bed to put in my new spot for the next month, I was driving home in U-Haul. I got a call from one of her boyfriends talking about, you know, he's from Compton.
Just a second. So are you telling me that when you were coming home that evening,
Right.
when you came in on the evening that she's talking about, she and her friends had already cleared out your room?
Downstairs on the bottom, tied up in a knot with TV, DVD, clothes, CDs, everything, iron.
Yeah.
And I walked in, there was 4 guys there, and I asked which one you guys called me on my cell phone. They was like, it's not us. She said it was somebody else. I got upset.
So there were 4 people there,
Already.
herself and how many of her friends?
4 people and her.
And her
Yeah.
were there.
They're
Now, is
already.
that the time that you called the police?
Oh, I didn't call the police.
She called the police.
Oh, yes, yes.
Is that when you called the police?
Yes, after.
And you had 3 friends at
Which
the
had
house?
nothing to do with it.
I'm speaking and I asked you a question. You had 3 friends there. Is that correct?
They happened to stop by, yes.
Well, I want to tell you something. I'm trying to hold my fury because not only did you manipulate the justice system because of your lies, because you couldn't get your way and you figured the only way to get your way was to file a complaint against him with the police department, so you went down there once. And your story was totally different, by the way, in your complaint than what you just testified to, because you're so stupid you can't even get your facts straight.
That's nice.
You say that he was going to get somebody to take care of you. Well, that's not what you testified to. You said if anybody tries to get me out of here, I'm going to be able to take care of the situation, not take care of you. That was the first time you went to the police. And then when the police would do nothing, because you figured you'd go down there, cry a couple of tears, and they would be very sympathetic. They would come and throw him out. Then you had 3 friends over. You had already packed up all of his stuff. It was already in a big bundle, so you knew there was no gun upstairs in his room because the room was cleared out.
Exactly.
and because he wasn't going fast enough for you, you called the police and you had him arrested. You've got some nerve. You're a manipulative, maniacal young lady who worked the system, and he got punished for it.
5 days in jail.
Ultimately, the case was dismissed. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
I wish I could put her in jail for 5 days.
That's all I wanted.
Listen to me. I wish I could put her in jail for 1 day so that she would know how it felt to lose your liberty when somebody is lying because they didn't get their way. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's just a huge liar. He's a complete liar.
She had a 4-bedroom, only 2 people were living there. She was taking trips and paying car notes.
He insulted me, degraded me, and he was hostile, violent, and I'm living in this house by myself, renting him out of room, doing him a favor.
I didn't need to be in jail. No, I have money. It wasn't about money.
I'm not going to do favors for anybody, especially people like him.
I came here to get justice. Justice was prevailed.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Minks versus Boris. Step forward, please.
Prototype machinist Ted Minks is suing his ex-wife, student Susan Boris, for closing their son's bank accounts and stealing the money.
When were you 2 people married?
We were married until February the 5th was the final.
2503, and you have children?
Yes, we do, 2, Your Honor.
2 boys?
Yes, Your Honor.
How old are they?
14 and 10.
Who has custody of the children?
I do, Your Honor.
All of that is correct so far.
It's joint physical legal custody. So,
That wasn't a complete sentence. Can we have the whole sentence, please?
part of it's true. It's joint physical custody, Your Honor.
We have joint physical custody, and who has primary legal custody?
Mr. Minks does, Your Honor.
This is your complaint, that there existed bank accounts. The bank accounts were for the boys, and the custodian of those accounts was your former wife.
That is true, Your Honor.
And when the children, when you became their primary legal custodian, you wanted access to the account because you just wanted to move them. I don't know what you wanted to do with the accounts. And you found out that the defendant had, in fact, closed the accounts.
If I may, I am the full physical custodian of the 2 children. We have joint legal, so it's the other way around. And yes, that is true. She did close the accounts and take the money from the children, and they did ask for those monies back.
How much was in each of the accounts?
I believe one was $365 and the other was $110.
So far correct?
No, Your Honor.
How much was in the accounts?
When I closed the account, one was $134 and the other was $11.
Can I see a history of the accounts, please? There wasn't a lot of money in these accounts, sir. The average balance for the last 12 months was $103.87. And that says for the last average balance the last 12 months. Did you know how much money was in these accounts?
I had a good idea. I did not get regular statements, no.
Did you withdraw any other money out of these accounts for the children? Other than the monies that you withdrew, $103 and $63 when you closed them.
I withdrew some cash that I put in for my check to pay for an orthodontic bill for Joe. I had been putting money into their account for like transition because I was filing for divorce from Mr. Minks, and I was trying to hide the money from him. So, and then,
babe, you can't do that. Because the account that you opened, the tax responsible customer, according to the accounts that you opened, were the children. You
Correct.
gave the children Social Security number. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
You made a gift to the children, an irrevocable gift to the children of any money that you put in this account, and you put a stamp on that when you said, I don't pay any income tax on the interest. The children do, and here's the children's Social Security number, because they can accumulate so much interest without having to pay taxes on it. So you can't cut it both ways. You can't hide money from the IRS, and you can't hide money from him. Simple. Now, you could transfer the money from those accounts from one bank to another. You can take that money and you can buy a bond, as long as it's in the same amount. You can take that money and you can buy stocks, as long as you're acting reasonably, I assume. But you can't take that money and pay for your own expenses and hide money because you're going through a divorce. You can't do that. Simple.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So now I have to know how much money was in the accounts, and I have to see a statement of the account. How long were you planning this divorce?
Since July.
I want to see a statement of the account prior to that.
I don't have one, Your Honor.
All right.
There's an order of protection Mr. Minks put on me. I have no access to my records.
Fine. Since I don't have that information, I'm going to direct that that information be faxed to Chambers from your bank within the next 24 hours. What was the date of your separation?
November 18th, I believe it was. Your.
That was the date of your separation. When did the trouble start?
Can you be more specific?
Well, when do you think, Mr. Minks, that your former wife would have started to secrete money in the children's account?
I would have no way of anticipating that.
When did you get the first clue that she didn't like you?
She gave, I believe I was filed, she gave me some self-help divorce papers in November.
In November?
Yeah.
That was your first clue she didn't like you?
We have had ups and downs, but generally they smooth out over time, so I had anticipated.
Well, if she
this
gave
one.
you self-help papers in November, that doesn't mean she woke up one morning, Mr. Minks, and said, today I'm going to get the papers. That means maybe she was thinking about it in September or October or July of 2002. Do you understand?
A reasonable person would do so, yes.
Yeah, a reasonable person would think that that's probably a possibility. So what I'm going to have you do, Ms. Boris, is to furnish this court within 24 hours bank statements on these two accounts dating back to June of 2002. The highest amount that was contained in these accounts for each of the boys will be the amount that the court will incorporate in a judgment. Do you understand?
I do, Your Honor.
You got my order?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
That just didn't come out right.
Police Officer Brett Robinson is suing 23-year-old student Anissa Davis for filing a false complaint with his department. Anissa is countersuing for emotional distress due to malicious prosecution.
Yeah, this is case number 85 on the calendar in the matter of Robinson versus Davis.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
You are a police officer, sir. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Where are you a police officer?
Los Angeles Police Department,
How long have you been a police officer?
19 years.
According to what I've read, you gave the defendant a traffic ticket, and that traffic ticket was for speeding?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was the speed that she was traveling, and what was the zone?
She was traveling 58 miles an hour in a 40-mile-an-hour zone.
Your complaint states that subsequent to giving her a ticket, she wrote a letter, or a series of letters, one to your captain, one to the chief, complaining about the treatment she received from you. And as a result of those letters, there was an investigation, and while there was a finding of no fault, I assume, is that right?
Correct, Your Honor.
Those letters will remain in your file, and you want to be compensated because you said everything that she said about you was a lie.
That's true.
So first I have to find out from Ms. Davis, I'd like to see from you a copy of the letter that you sent to Officer Robinson's superiors. Now, can you also please identify who your witnesses are?
I am my father, James Davis, and my mother, Winnie Davis.
Okay. And neither of them were present during the course of this
No, they weren't.
incident, is that right?
Yes.
Perfect. And your father, from what I gather from your answer, as well as from Officer Robinson's complaint, is a retired police officer. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. Now, Ms. Davis, I would like you to start from the beginning.
Okay.
The very beginning.
Your Honor,
And tell me what happened when Officer Robinson stopped you.
Well, I would like to start off by saying that it has nothing to do with the actual citation. I wrote the letter about expressing my feelings to the police department about the way that I was treated and how I felt.
Why don't you just answer my question? I asked you to tell me what happened from the moment that he pulled you over for speeding.
Okay. He pulled me over and he told me that I was allegedly going too fast.
Pulled you over, and he said to you, what were his words?
I don't remember his exact
What
words.
did you say to him?
Hello. I rolled down my window. He asked for my license and registration.
Did you have your license?
Yes, I did.
Did you have your registration?
Yes, I did.
Fine. So he took the license, and what did he do with it?
He proceeded to tell me what he stopped me for, and he went back to his car.
No, I don't want you to tell me. He proceeded to tell me what he stopped me for. He said something to you. I stopped you for speeding. You were going 58 miles in a 40-hour zone. What did he say to you, Miss Davis?
I'm sorry, I'm just very nervous.
Well, get unnervous. Did he say to you, I'm giving you a ticket because you were speeding?
Yes.
Fine. And what did you say to him?
I asked him if he knew my father.
And what did he say to you?
He said he knew exactly who my father was.
You said to him, do you know who my father is? And he must have said to you, who's your father?
Yes.
And you said?
Jim Davis.
And he said, I know exactly who your father is.
He said, yes, he's a retired police officer. Yes, he did. That's what he
No,
said.
what did he say to you? Did he say, I know he's a retired police
said,
officer, or did he say, I know exactly who your father is?
He's a retired police officer. I know exactly who he is.
Fine. And then what did he do?
He went back to his motorcycle to continue writing my ticket.
And what did you do?
I looked for my insurance.
Did you find it?
Yes.
And did you, at some point, get out of the car?
Yes.
Was it before or after you found your insurance?
Probably during. I made a phone call on my cell phone.
Who did you make a phone call to?
To my father.
What for?
Because I was nervous about the way I was being treated.
So far you have been treated perfectly.
Yeah, but...
So far you have been treated perfectly, professionally and perfectly. So what did you call your father for?
Because I wanted to ask him a question.
What question did you want to ask him?
About my insurance, because I had just gotten a new insurance card because my car had been broken into, so I called...
Perfectly reasonable. So when you got your father on the phone, what did you say to him?
I told him that I had just been stopped by a police officer for speeding, and he said, can I talk to the officer? So at that point, with the insurance in my hand, I got out of the car, and I went up to him, and I asked him if I could ask him something, and he put his hand up in my face.
No, you didn't say that to him at all. Don't give me baloney. You said, my father wants to talk to you.
No, I said, can my father talk to you? Can I?
Right, that's exactly what you said. Can my father talk to you? Don't leave that out. And he put his hand up in your face and said what?
He said, I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to anybody. Go to your car. He didn't want to discuss anything further with
Sounds perfectly right to me. Doesn't it sound perfectly right to you, former retired police officer Davis? That requires a simple yes or no. Is anything that your daughter said to you sound untoward on the part of this officer?
She's left a couple of things out.
No, you weren't there.
Yes, ma'am, you're correct.
You weren't there. So if you were me, and you've been around the ballpark a little bit, if you were me listening to your daughter right now, would you find anything untoward in this police officer's conduct?
Only the part about he didn't want to talk to her and go have a seat in the car.
No. What she said was she wanted him to talk to you. And you were going to try to talk him out of giving your daughter a ticket.
That's not true.
Absolutely, positively, 100%. As I'm sitting here and he's standing there.
Not anymore.
Speak. Listen to me. Speak not. Otherwise, there is absolutely no reason for you to have...
May I say something?
Called. Say nothing, sir. Don't embarrass yourself.
I won't.
You will. Believe me, you will. You will embarrass yourself because that is exactly what happened. She called you on the phone and she said, I'm going to get a speeding ticket. And you said, let me speak to the guy. That's what your daughter told me.
That's not correct.
Well, that's what your daughter just told me. You mean she's lying? She said to me, my father said, let me talk to him. And I got out of the car holding my insurance card in my hand with the phone. And she walked over to him and said to him, my father wants to talk to you. And he put up his hand and he said, I don't want to talk to you, and I don't want to talk to your father. That's what she just told me. I didn't make that up.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You know why you called your father, and the fact that he wouldn't respond to it is to his credit.
But the fact is that he did not want to continue to talk to me.
He doesn't have to talk to you. You want to talk to somebody, go to a psychiatrist.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Police officer Brett Robinson says after giving Anissa Davis a speeding ticket, she filed a false complaint with his department.
Go ahead.
She left out part of the phone conversation, which I was privileged to. Where she asked me, she told me she got stopped for speeding. And I asked her, I said, did he use a radar? Did he follow you? Did he estimate your speed? What did he do? And she said, I don't know. And I said, get out of the car and ask him. She came back 2 seconds later and said, he said it was not radar. And I said, fine. And she said, would you like to talk to him? And I said, if he'll talk to me, I'll talk to him.
Listen to me, sir. Those are questions that are left for a court. You know that, and I know that. The way to fight a ticket is to go to a hearing and ask just the questions that you wanted her to ask this officer when he was giving her a ticket. He is under no obligation whatsoever to provide that information. And you know that as a former police officer.
Yes, ma'am.
So far, he did nothing untoward. Nothing. And she had no right to write a letter. None. Now you may be seated. Now I'm going to ask you some other things. Who wrote the letter?
I did.
With whose help?
With my mother and father.
Right.
But I wrote the letter with my thoughts and my ideas.
Oh, your thoughts and your
feelings.
ideas. Listen to me. I want you to understand something. I've been around the ballpark a long time. How did I know that you did not write this letter by yourself?
I'm an educated college student. I don't know why why I wouldn't be able to
Because
write
I
this
could
letter.
tell that you didn't write it yourself. That's how. Come. I could tell you didn't write it yourself. It may have been your thoughts or your ideas, but the words weren't all yours. So that comes out of vindictiveness. He was annoyed that this officer gave his daughter a ticket and would not get on the phone with him because, after all, he should have done it as a courtesy. And he didn't.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Yeah, it's true. It's absolutely true. And you did the wrong thing because you were a spoiled brat driving a little bit too fast and you got stopped, and your father, I don't know if he's ever gotten you out of difficulty before, but you figured, while I'm looking for my insurance card, I'm going to call my father. There was no reason for that because you had the insurance card in your hand. You had any questions for your father, you ask him the questions after you get the ticket when you get home. There was no reason to call him then. Absolutely none. So you know why you called your father. I know why you called your father. He knows why you called your father, and the fact that he wouldn't respond to it is to his credit, that you got no more of a favor than anybody else that he might have stopped.
But the fact is that he did not want to continue to talk to me.
He doesn't have to talk to you. You want to talk to somebody, go to a psychiatrist. He doesn't have to talk to you. He's giving you a ticket.
To someone who's a police officer, who I look up to, who is on duty
Please.
in uniform.
Please.
Someone who I look up to and I respect, and who doesn't want to even talk to me after that whole incident.
Let me explain something to you, madam. He doesn't want to be pressured. And before you got out of the car with your cell phone, with your father on the line, he said nothing untoward to you, according to you, and even according to your father. It wasn't until after you made the phone call, according to you, that he put his hand up in your face and refused to talk to you. And he doesn't have to talk to you. That's what you go to therapy for. His responsibility is to give you a ticket,
and
to
I
say,
quiet,
and to say license, registration. I am giving you a ticket for speeding. I'm speaking. Now you're not so nervous anymore. You're interrupting the judge. I'm giving you a ticket for speeding. You were going 58 miles in a 40-hour zone. Here is your ticket. You can respond to it. You can plead guilty. You can plead not guilty. That's it. Other than that, he has to say diddly squat to you. So he acts totally professionally. License, registration, proof of insurance. Thank you very much. Have a seat in your car. You don't like it? You go home, you pick up the phone, you call your therapist, and you say, I had a very bad day today. I need an appointment. I need to vent for an hour. You don't write a letter to his superiors. Now, my question to you, sir, is you've been very quiet. The reason I started with her first is because what's the point in listening to you? I wanted to find out what she was complaining about.
Yes, sure.
Now, you're suing her for $5,000.
Yes,
I
sure.
want to know what you're going to do with this $5,000 if you get it.
I really hadn't had any plans for that yet. What I wanted to ask you, or what I wanted to tell you earlier, is that what she put in the letter obviously is completely untrue, and I have proof of that. I have a tape recording of the conversation that occurred between Miss Davis and myself. What she has told her father, what she has told you, and what she has told the station is completely untrue.
Oh, I would like to hear that. You mean it's even worse?
Can I respond to
Well,
that?
Absolutely not.
So what's on the tape and what you've read in the letter is night and day.
Go ahead.
Afternoon. I'm Officer Robinson with LAPD. Three things. The first one is I got your speed here on Wilbur with a laser at 58, speeding at 40. And then I also noticed that your left brake light is out and stuff on the brakes and coming behind you. Do you have your license with you?
I do.
Do you have a transcript?
Yes, I do.
Can I see the transcript,
Yes, you
please?
Can I say something, Your Honor?
Sure.
First of all, I had no clue that he had this. This is the first time I've heard of it. And but he has control to start, stop, and alter any part of this tape.
I want to read what you say. I mean, that's your voice, right? He didn't get somebody to dub your voice.
No, I'm saying, but
Good.
he has the option as his recorder to...
Quiet. Initially, when he said, do you have your license with you? You know what you responded to him? I do, which I heard there. Oh, wow. My dad's a policeman, too, and I'm having the worst time of all.
Oh, wow.
With my finals, I don't know if this matters at all. My dad works with you. Oh, Miss Davis, do you live on Brimer? Yes. Who is your father? Sergeant Davis. He works for Valley Traffic. He's a sergeant, too. Is he a motorcycle officer? Yes, he is. What's his first name? You say Jim Davis. Officer. Yeah, your dad's retired. I know who your dad is, but he's retired. It doesn't matter whether he's working or retired. You're responsible for your own driving. You say your vehicle is registered. What year is it? It's a 95. All right. All right. He says to you, wait right here. I'll be right with you. And then you say to him, my dad wants to talk to you for a second. I'm not going to talk and handle your phone. Why don't you go ahead and wait over there by your vehicle or in your vehicle?
Can I add that he put his hand in my face and said, I'm not talking to your dad, I'm not talking to you, go to your vehicle?
I'm holding a ticket book in my left hand.
Just a second, so what?
And a pin in my
Just
right.
a minute. So
you had your ticket
so
book.
Listen to
and
me.
pen.
So what?
To me, a man in uniform, someone who works for the Los Angeles Police Department, should not be putting a hand in my face.
You're a big baby.
No.
You're a big baby. I don't know how many times your father's gotten you out of scrapes before. This time, he couldn't, and you got annoyed, and so did he.
This had nothing to do with the citation.
Listen to me. Can't you get this through your head? He did nothing wrong. You did. First you were speeding, and then you tried to get out of the ticket by telling him that your father was a police officer. You did something wrong. And then when you got the ticket anyway, you wrote a letter, and your father, maybe because he has nothing better to do, and your mother, I don't know what she does, participated in authoring this letter, which is going to sit in his personnel file, and it's wrong. And you owe him an apology. So stop defending your behavior. You owe him an apology.
And I didn't write the letter for the citation. He's doing this for retaliation for personal gain. He's suing me for $5,000 because I'm expressing my feelings to the department about how he lacks.
You've been living in L.A. too long.
No, actually,
I think you ought to go live someplace else. You've been living in L.A. too long.
Actually,
now I want you to be. Now I want you to be quiet because I'm speaking. For somebody who's nervous, you talk pretty well. So I want you to be quiet. My question to you, officer, it's worse than what I thought, because she tried to influence you through her father immediately on being stopped. It wasn't later on, as she has indicated, but it was immediate.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? What I'm asking you, Officer Robinson, is you're suing her for $5,000.
Yes, ma'am.
She's got a counterclaim, ridiculous counterclaim, because for $5,000, punitive damages and emotional distress due to malicious prosecution.
And I have,
she's operating in La La Land someplace.
I have copies of all of my medical and psychiatric things
Listen
right
to
here
me.
when you're...
Listen, shh, hey, quiet. Listen to me. You were wrong. Get it through your head. Madam,
I'm not
you
talking
were
about the
wrong.
citation.
Your counterclaim is dismissed. All I'm asking you
I agree with the
is,
citation.
what do you plan on doing with the $5,000? Are you planning on keeping it, or is there a charitable organization through the LAPD that you would like to donate this money to? If I give you the money, now that I've told her she is, whether she gets it or not, 150% out of line. She had no right to write the letter. He had no right to participate in writing the letter. He should have asked the same questions I did. He should have known that his daughter did the wrong thing by bringing up his name when she got stopped for a ticket. Maybe her mother doesn't understand enough to tell her that she did the wrong thing, to encourage this kind of irresponsible behavior. But I'm going to ask you, what do you want to do with the money?
Well, I think I would like to donate to the Police Memorial Foundation.
That sounds just fine. I'm entering a judgment for $5,000. But since I believe that Ms. Davis maligned the police department as well as you, $2,500 of that will go to the LAPD Memorial Foundation, $2,500 to you. Thank you very much. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out. I'll come back with you later, please.
24-year-old phlebotomist Shauna Hunter is suing her boyfriend's ex-girlfriend, 26-year-old customer care representative Javon Franklin, for keying her car. Javon is countersuing, claiming Shauna slashed her tires.
Yeah, this is case number 211 on the calendar in the matter of Hunter versus Franklin. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Thanks, Bert.
Folks, have seats. You're welcome, Judge.
Is the boyfriend here? Which one is the boyfriend?
One in the burgundy shirt.
Officer Byrd. He looks like a nice enough gentleman.
Yeah.
Does he look as if he's special enough to start a war over?
I'm not a real good judge on guys. What do you think?
I wouldn't start a war over any of them.
There you go.
Oh. Aren't you humiliated? Before we even start, are you a nice girl?
Very.
And you?
Yes,
Think you're a nice girl?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you work?
Yes, I do.
That was a big pause there. What does that mean, a big pause?
I work 25 miles away from home, and I go.
What do you do?
I'm a phlebotomist.
Okay, which means you take
blood.
And you work for a laboratory?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been working for the laboratory?
A year and a half.
And what do you do for a living, Miss Franklin?
I work at AT&T Wireless.
How long have you been working for AT&T?
A year and a half.
Smart. Both in this terrible economy, both have good jobs, beautiful looking. What does he do?
Nothing.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just
a second. Just asking.
She wouldn't know.
Just a second. I just want to know.
Yeah.
She said nothing. What does he do?
He's an administrative assistant.
And how many days a week does he work?
Can I interrupt, please?
Right now. No, I'm going to get an answer.
Okay.
I'm going to get an answer. Come on.
Actually, I'm going to take that back. She got him fired.
Thank you.
So the answer is he's not working.
He's not.
All right.
He's searching. He's searching really hard.
What I'm saying is he may not be a bad guy, but you are two nice, clearly responsible, hardworking, diligent young women who you claim she keyed your car over Prince Charming. She says you slashed her tires over Prince Charming.
Prince Charming cannot pay my bills.
Just a second. Don't jump up and down.
Sorry.
Stay still. You're making me seasick.
I'm sorry.
Miss Hunter.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me when Miss Franklin keyed your car.
It was the weekend of Memorial Day.
And how do you know that she keyed your car?
I got 2 witnesses here that saw her do it. Firstly, I just want to set up the situation. She came ringing the doorbell at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's not the first time.
He used to be your boyfriend?
Yes, used to be.
I broke up with him in May. He proposed to me in May. I told him no.
Okay. So she came to your house in the morning and?
And she kept ringing the doorbell. This is according to my witness, because we were both asleep naturally, like any normal person should be asleep at 4 o'clock in the morning. Brian Matlock, he assumed that it was me because when my witness and I came in, he was on the couch sleeping.
You all live together?
No, no. I actually have a friend, Justin, who rents out a room to Kevin here. I've only known these people for about 8 months. And what happened was I was sleeping on the couch, and I was rudely woken to a doorbell ringing about 30 times. I looked at the people and mistaked it for Shauna and let her in, and I believed it was Shauna at the time, and I just went and laid down because she walked right to Kevin's room.
And it was this young lady?
This young lady.
Now, what were you doing there 5 o'clock in the morning? Shh! What were you doing there 5 o'clock in the morning?
I was not there at 5 o'clock.
You think he's lying?
I don't even know this guy, to be honest.
I don't know her, but I knew her after all the lights came on.
I've never seen him. Never seen this guy. He does not live at that residence.
He didn't say he was living. He was sleeping on the couch.
I've never seen him there.
Okay, go ahead. So you let her in, and what happened?
I let her in, and it escalated into an argument which carried out to the driveway. I, at that point, followed to make sure there was no fighting or anything at that point. I asked her to leave and told her that I was going to call the police. She told me, mind your own business, white boy, and keyed up the side of her vehicle.
And you saw that?
I watched every bit of it.
And you say that never happened?
That never happened.
Okay, good. Now, this happened the early morning of May 24th, according to your complaint.
Yes, ma'am.
Then you say, after work on May 24th, something happened with your car, right? Let me hear what happened with your car.
Kevin came to my house. He called me on May 24th and asked...
Kevin, that's him.
Yeah, that's him. He asked me to marry him. Let's go to Reno. I came up with some lame excuses. I told Kevin I was sick, I was tired, and my hair was not done. We got into a little argument. No, it sounds funny, but I did. The second time we were supposed to get married, we were on our way to Reno, got halfway there,
I don't care about the second time.
Well, anyways, the 24th, when he came over to my house, we got into a little argument because I did not want to get married to him. He left, called me 2:20 in the morning. He said he was downtown at a jazz festival. Can he come over? I told him no. I was already in bed, sleep. That afternoon, I went to work at 2 o'clock. Got an email sent out to the whole call center and asked at 4 o'clock, is there anyone that drive a white Honda Accord? And I responded to that email. They said because there's somebody outside in the parking lot slashing your tires.
You're banging on the table. It's irritating.
Somebody's in the parking lot slashing at your tires.
Do you have any witnesses who saw her do it?
I do have a witness. Chrissy Sims is the witness.
Okay.
I also have
Step up.
Police report for another witness, but she couldn't make it. She had surgery.
Would you get the police report? I want to take a look at it. Sure. Chrissy, you have a last name?
Sims.
Who do you work for?
I work for AT&T Wireless also.
Did you witness Miss Hunter slashing Miss Franklin's tires?
Yes, Your Honor, I did.
And when was that?
It was on May 25th. It was around 3:30, 4 o'clock, because that's when I normally take my lunch break, and I was in our lunch room. And I was just looking outside, and I saw a car parked behind her car, like slanted. And then I saw her get out the car, and you could tell she was up to something because of the way she was parked. So I saw her get out the car and go over to her tires and just kneel down and slash. She kept moving her arm back and forth.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Why did you miss 2 days of work?
I just didn't have the money to get my tires fixed. I didn't have any transportation. The only transportation I had was to go
take
get
a bus and leave the driving to us.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Shauna Hunter says her boyfriend's ex-girlfriend, Javon Franklin, keyed her car. Javon says Shauna slashed her tires.
Okay, I'm ready.
Your Honor, I'll tell you, I don't need a witness here. I slashed her tires. I'm willing to pay for her tires because I was enraged the next morning to find my brand new car.
Perfect.
Scratched. And you know, on top of that, come to find out that this gentleman bought her tires. There was only one security guard outside. He came and chased me. That's when I hopped in my car and I ran off.
Just a second. How much were the tires?
The tires are $300.
Well, let me have an estimate.
I didn't even bring that, to be honest. I left that at home.
Well, where did you think you were coming today? I need an estimate for tires. She has a check here for $50.
Who paid for that and where?
Well, I don't know.
Kevin bought them for $25 each.
Oh.
Is that right?
That's correct.
She has 15-inch rims on her tires. I looked down, they were bald.
It doesn't make any difference. I have here $975 is what you're suing for. Damages to the car, towing expenses, lost wages, and harassment.
Correct.
Okay. And how many tires were slashed?
It was 2.
Bird, I know nothing about tires. I know that they make the world go round. Can you get a tire for $100?
Can you buy one tire for $100? Yeah, you can buy one tire for $100.
Is that a good tire?
That's a real good tire.
What's an average price tire for a Honda Accord?
And they're 17 inches.
Maybe $75 a piece.
All right. Now, how much did you pay for the towing of your car?
The towing was only $65.
And what kind of lost wages are you talking about?
2 days of work missed.
Why did you miss 2 days of work?
I just didn't have the money to get my tires fixed. When I got it towed, I had it towed to my house. I didn't have any transportation, so
right.
The only transportation I had was to go get my car.
Take the bus and leave the driving to us. Okay, now, I want to see pictures of the scratches to your car.
By the way, she scratched it 2 times on 2 separate occasions.
You have an estimate on painting it?
Yes, ma'am.
There isn't much of a question in my mind that Miss Franklin keyed your car. She certainly acknowledged the fact that she slashed your tires because she was angry.
Your Honor, I did not key her car. Yeah. I would like to take a lie detective test, if that's possible.
Okay. Anyway, that's my finding, and I think that you two ladies should just cool it.
I agree. Totally.
And it's going to cost you some money to fix your car, and I'm going to do a set-off because I have a claim and I have a counterclaim, and after I did all the math, although you have a claim for some $1,100 for the painting of your car, you're going to get $785 because I have deducted what I believe is the cost of the tires and the towing. Judgment for the plaintiff, the amount of $785. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She's more than welcome to have me. She's actually doing me a favor.
As soon as she moves on with herself, the better off she'll be.
He said, I heard his heart for the last time, and I will pay for this.
We were doing just fine until she came back around, just causing trouble, knocking on the door at 3 o'clock in the morning when nobody wants her there.
This is my payback. It's cute.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Scott versus Butler. Step forward, please.
22-year-old homemaker Shalisha Scott is suing her ex-boyfriend, 26-year-old cook Jermaine Butler, for claiming her children on his tax return. Jermaine is countersuing for car damage, stolen clothes, and an assault.
Miss Scott, you and Mr. Butler live together, according to what I've read. You have a child?
Yes, not together.
Not together. How old is your child?
My daughter is 22 months old.
Do you also have a niece that's living with you?
Well, she was in my care previously in 2002.
How old is she?
She's 4 years old.
Why was she in your care?
Just temporarily, just to take care of her.
I asked you a direct question. You have a niece. Is this your sister's child?
Yes.
Was your sister not in a position to take care of her?
No. She just needed some assistance, and I helped her.
Does your sister have any other children?
Yes.
How old are her other children?
She has a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 3-month-old.
Was this the only child that was out of her custody, or were they all out of her custody?
No, there wasn't out of her custody at all. I just took care of her.
Miss Scott, according to your complaint, you lived with him, stopped living together. When he left, he took a computer and he took a car.
Yes.
You want the computer back and you want the car back.
Yes.
Those items, you say, were purchased with money that he received from his tax returns. You say he received that money from his tax returns because you allowed him to take your daughter and your niece as dependents on his tax returns. That's why I ask you these questions.
Oh.
So, do you understand?
Yes.
That's what you said in your complaint, that the only reason that these items were yours because you were taking care of a 22-month-old and a 4-year-old that year.
Yes.
So I assume you were not working.
No.
Is that right?
No, I wasn't working.
Right. So somebody was supporting you, your 22-month-old, and the 4-year-old. He says it was him because he was working.
When we got together, Jermaine didn't even have a job until...
I'm talking about the year we're talking about with his tax returns. He had to have had a job because he paid taxes and he got money back.
Me and him didn't get together till the end of 2002. So he didn't take care of my niece at all.
How long did you live together?
We lived together for about 7 months.
Who supported your 4-year-old niece?
I did during this time.
From what?
From about March to about August of 2002.
From what money?
Oh, just welfare, just taking care of her, period. Just having her there all the time, basically.
How did you support yourself before him?
I was on welfare, basically.
And your 22-month-old was on welfare?
Yes.
And the 4-year-old?
She was on her mother's welfare, yes.
Did you claim these 2 children on your tax returns?
Yes, I did.
Is that wrong?
Yes.
Of course it was wrong, because we, as taxpayers, were paying for these children. And how much money did you get back as a result of claiming them on your tax returns?
Approximately $3,000.
$3,000 back. Now, but for these children, would you have gotten any money back?
Yes.
How much?
Maybe less than $1,000.
So let's say you got $2,000 back as a result of fraudulently claiming these 2 children on your tax returns. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And it's your claim, Miss Scott, that you should be entitled to what you bought with this $2,000, because if it wasn't for you giving him the right to take your daughter and your niece off on your tax returns, he wouldn't have gotten this money back.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Because you didn't work during that time. The only money that you had was provided to you by the state.
Well, actually, in the beginning of 2002, I had a job. I worked.
Well, tell me about your job.
Yes, I was a dental, not a dental assistant. I worked at Wienerson School as a manager.
Okay. How long have you been on welfare?
I've been on welfare since September of 2001.
And what year tax returns are we talking about?
2002's taxes.
Fine. Then let's not quibble. The state was supporting you and your daughter. That's the money we're talking about. The state was supporting you, and you had no right to let him claim your 22-month-old or your 4-year-old on his tax returns because the state was providing you with money.
Well,
so what you want me to do is, well, he was wrong, 100% wrong. I hope the IRS watches it and comes back and says, you owe us this money because you're not entitled to take them as dependents. They're not your dependents. You are also not entitled to any part of $2,000.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying that was our agreement we came up with to make extra money. And
you came up with a scheme. You came up with a scheme with him. It was an interesting scheme. I'll give you the law very quickly, Miss Scott. The law says that in order to come into court and ask the court to help you, you have to come in with clean hands. If you come in with dirty hands, which means that you put your hand down, which means that you haven't done the right thing, you don't get the court's help.
Yes.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Right. You and he came up with a scheme, and the scheme was to get money back from the government that you didn't deserve, because the government was supporting you, your daughter, and your niece, and as a result of your scheme with him, he got back an extra $2,000. And then you were going to split the proceeds. That's the agreement that you made with him. And your complaint is that he reneged on the agreement because with that money he bought a car and he bought a computer, and when he left, he took everything back with him.
No, we were in a relationship. So everything that was bought, we bought together. Jermaine was homeless before I met him, so I brought him in thinking that he was going to be an idle husband or a future husband because we were talking about getting married and everything. And I thought that we were going to build on something, but he decided after I became pregnant, everything started getting bad. And he decided to leave.
Your whole story. Listen to me carefully.
I'm just saying.
Listen to me carefully. You're not his wife. You are legally nothing to him. Who are you?
I'm her brother.
I don't want to hear from you. Let me think that at least one member of your family was not absent when they gave out the noodle department, okay? Do you understand? She doesn't get it. Your case is dismissed. You have absolutely no cause of action. You did the wrong thing by permitting him to take 2 people as dependents who were not his dependents. He did the wrong thing. I'm speaking. He did the wrong thing. He ended up with a computer and, according to you, a car that he bought.
For me. That was my car.
That he bought partially from tax return refunds that he shouldn't have gotten, and the IRS may come back and get him. I don't know that. I know certainly you're not getting any money from him because you did the wrong thing. Goodbye, good luck, have a happy life, take your brother with you. I don't want to hear him, I don't want to look at him, I want him out of here.
Why y'all making the income tax the main thing?
Kurt, come back one second. Bring him back 1 second.
Everybody back this way.
Just a plaintiff and the defendant, please. Thank you very much.
You two can step out, please. Thank you.
I'm looking at your papers, sir.
16-year-old Camden McClure says his mother, Gay McClure, owes for the value of car parts and for closing his savings account.
Why don't you sit down, young man? Mr. McClure, this is your former wife,
Yes, Your Honor.
and this is your son
Yes, Your Honor.
that you had together.
Correct.
You have one child together?
Yes, only one.
And how long are you divorced, Mr. McClure?
Approximately a year and a half.
When you were divorced, where did your son live?
Initially lived with my wife.
For how long?
Approximately 2 years.
Okay, and then came to live with you.
Yes, as of the end of July of this year.
Both you and your son are plaintiffs in this case. I'm going to hear from you first, and then your son and I are going to have a discussion. Your son came to you in July. You were under a court order for support. The support order was for how much a month?
$677 a month.
Your suit claims that that money was taken out of your salary for the month that your son was with you, and so therefore you've overpaid child support.
Correct, until we could get the paperwork in on the modified divorce order.
Mrs. McClure, you do not deny the fact that he overpaid the $677 for that month.
No, ma'am.
So what's the issue? Why don't you return it?
He had continually told me that I was to spend every single dime of child support on Camden.
That's not true.
Shh. She's giving me her reason.
I just did. I knew that it was an overpayment.
Well, if you knew it was an overpayment, you did the wrong thing.
But
and if you did the wrong
also-
thing, you have to pay him.
I
You're not
also
supposed-
tried to pay him back.
No, according to you, try to pay him back $10 a week. Or $20 a week. And that's unacceptable, because it would be unacceptable, Ms. McClure, if you were the recipient of child support in the amount of $600 and change a month, and he decided he's not going to pay you the $600 a month. He's going to give it to you in dribs and drabs of $20 a month, and he'll catch up when he wants to catch up. That would be unacceptable to you. It's unacceptable to him, because he had the responsibility of supporting the child during that month, and you have the responsibility of paying him back the money. You should have sent it back as soon as you got it. We understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
So your claim is for $677?
$624 and change.
$624. Just saved yourself $50, Mrs. McClure. That's what you're entitled to, and that's what you're going to get. Understood?
Yes.
Now you can stand up. What's your first name?
Camden.
Why did you go and live with your father, Camden?
The living experience with my mother wasn't a very likely.
How old are you?
16.
So you lived with your mother for 16 years. You mean all of a sudden it became an unpleasant experience?
Yes.
In what regard, sir?
I wanted to spend more time with my father, so I was wanting to go live with him.
That's perfectly acceptable.
Then when I informed her of it, progressively our relationship just got worse.
Well, that's unfortunate. But your desire to go to live with your father, according to you, was just because you wanted to spend more time with your father. Is that right?
Yes.
You have a problem with that, Mrs. McClure?
Only for the fact that several months before that, we had discussed him going to live with Brian, and he said that he did not want to under any circumstances, and he actually wanted me to promise to him that if Brian sued for custody, that I would not go along with it, I would go to court.
Changed his mind. Listen to me. Let's say that happened. He changed his mind, and that's what kids do when they're 16 years old. So when they're 16 years old, what you're supposed to do is say, listen, you want to go live with your father? Free. I'm free, right? Don't worry about where he is. I don't have to worry about him coming home. I don't have to clean up after his mess in the bathroom. You don't have to fight with him over cutting his hair. You don't have to do anything. He's with his father. It's his father's grief. I mean, I understand this. I was in family court for a lot of years. You get hurt. You get a little wounded. It's a natural phenomenon that you get a little wounded. But, you know, what I'm telling you is, for the first time in your life, as an adult, you're going to be free. If nothing else, I'm going to make you feel good about that. Because it's not anything that reflects on your parenting. He had a wind that went through his brain. Today, I want to go live with my father. We can pal around together. We're going to be buddies. I want to bond with him a little bit. Terrific. You have other children, sir?
I live with my current wife, and we do have a 5-year-old daughter. Together.
Great! Now you got 2 kids to worry about.
Yes.
You are the man. Good
Oh,
for
it's
you.
fun.
Oh, definitely. Good for you. Okay, now Camden.
Yes.
This is why your father has included you in this lawsuit, because you're a minor. Now, you had use of a car when you were living with your mother. The car was her car because it was in the judgment of divorce, according to what I read. She got that car. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. And according to your mother, she put in a lot of money in the car to make it drivable, and you drove that car. And according to you, you put in some money also. You put in, I don't know, rims and the things that kids put in cars, right?
Actually, I made it runnable.
Mr. McClure, I don't want to hear you encouraging him at all. Do we understand each other?
Yes, Your Honor.
This isn't supposed to be a bad thing for him. This is supposed to be a good thing for him.
Yes, it is.
That he's come to live with you, he's got a mother, she loves him, he's supposed to love her, not be angry with her. I'm a little angry with you for including him in this lawsuit, for even permitting it to go forward without saying to him, Camden, you're wrong, this is your mom's car. I got a car when we got a divorce, she got a car when we got a divorce, this is her car, it's not your car. That's what you should have done.
If I may, Your Honor.
Yes?
The car was purchased approximately when Camden was 12 years old, and everybody in the family was under the understanding...
I don't care what the understanding was. You were living with your wife at the time?
Correct.
All right. Listen to me very carefully, sir. Now you're divorced, and in the judgment of divorce, she got the car. Did you take a car?
I took a vehicle, yes, and she
Good.
received this vehicle.
And if she got one car and you got another car, then what you do is you want your son to have a car, give him your car if he comes to live with you. Don't say to him, that was your car. Everybody understood it was going to be your car when you turned 16.
That's correct,
How many
Your
cars
Honor.
did you give her? 2 cars or 1?
2?
2?
Yes.
From you?
Yes.
Tell me.
87 Buick Riviera and the 86 Pontiac Trans Am.
And what did you get?
An 86 Trans Am and my 93 Chevy pickup.
So you did a little bit better by about 5-6 years.
Yeah, the only vehicle that I had payments on was the pickup.
Listen to me. You did a little better.
Yes, I did fine.
So now you have 2 cars, and she has 2 cars. And if your son comes to live with you, give him one of your cars.
He currently has his own vehicle, Your Honor.
Perfect. Then why are we here, Camden?
Because some of the parts that I put on that car to make it runnable, so I worked for those and installed them.
And you used the car?
Yes.
Did you pay for the car?
No.
Did you pay to have the repairs done on the car other than the few parts that you put in?
All the repairs that were done were by myself.
You put in all the repairs since you're 12 years old?
Me and my father, then.
I'm talking about you. It's not your car, it's your mother's car. She let you drive it. You don't belong here suing her. We understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, let's talk about this bank account that you claim your mother closed out and took your money. How much money was in this bank account?
$528.
And where did you get it from?
Working for my grandfather, yard sales, things like that.
When was the account closed?
August 25th in 2003.
Did you put any money into that account allegedly after August of 2003?
No.
Well, you were still living with your mother then.
Yes.
Tell me what happened with that account in 2003.
I do not know. She said that she closed the account.
You closed the account in August 2003. Why?
Because we lived way out of town. And when he needed money for, you know, the church group or whatever activity that he wanted to go, if he didn't happen to tell me the day before, I didn't have the money on hand. So he either didn't get to go or, you know, I'd have to go all the way back into town to take the money out of the bank.
Why didn't you pay for it?
I did on a lot of things.
You should have paid for it on everything. Do you work?
No.
Well, how do you support yourself?
I was on public assistance.
Did you know that your mother was receiving public assistance?
Yes, ma'am.
Were there things that you needed that you didn't have money for?
A few things, nothing too important.
Like what?
Just daily necessities. Sometimes it was hard.
So is it possible that this money got used up?
Possibly.
Did you know that your mother was going to the bank to take this money out in small amounts when you needed the money? Did she say, well, go to your bank account and take out the money?
No, I didn't.
You
Yes,
sure
he
about that?
did. Yes, he did. And it was even under his suggestion, Mom, why don't you just close the account, have the money here at the house, so you don't have to worry about running all the way back into town and running back when he would want money for
Would that
something.
sound familiar to you, Camden?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Camden says that he worked.
Yes.
And he put his money into that bank account.
Yes, he did. I also put money in there that he did not, per se, work for, but yes.
She didn't put any money that I didn't work for in there.
Can I see the transactions from the savings account, please?
Go back over there.
Sorry, sir.
Okay. This money was originally opened with $300. The only money that was put in was $227 after your mother put it in. So, Camden, my question to you is it possible, sir, that that's the extent of the money that you put in this account? $227?
That bank was opened here in Boise, and most of the money I made was when we still lived in Twin Falls. So that's why there's a $300 deposit.
Well, that's the beginning balance.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Ms. McClure, let me tell you this. There's no question that this car is your car. I'm dismissing that part of your son's lawsuit that deals with that car. I do, however, think that he has a legitimate complaint with regard to the savings account that was in his name, where he put his money. This is his money. You are the custodian for his money, and you can't take it out and spend it unless you're prepared to show me exactly what you spent it on.
I didn't necessarily spend it. Camden did.
Lawsuit, sir, I am awarding you the $528.85 for the money that's in the account. I hope that that satisfies you. I want you to be a smart boy.
Thank you.
Just because you decided to live with your father doesn't mean that you don't have a mother anymore. I've already explained to her that she should be the second happiest person in this room today because she has a little bit of freedom, and she should use that to get herself together, to get a job, to start taking care of herself, which she clearly hasn't done in a very long time. That's her responsibility. She doesn't have any children at home. She doesn't have any reason why she can't get a job and work.
I have one.
Well, it's been a long time coming. It is time now for you to take care of yourself, for nobody else to take care of you. You owe your former husband $624 and your son $528. Thank you. That's all.
Neil Brady Jr. and his girlfriend, Kiana Taylor, are suing their neighbor, dog rescuer Shauna Henderson, for damages from a dog attack. The couple says Shauna's pit bulls killed their Cocker Spaniel.
Who is Brady?
I am.
Mr. Brady, Ms. Taylor, it is your claim that the defendant's dogs, she has pit bulls,
Correct.
got loose and attacked your dog, which was on your property.
Yeah.
Your dog was a pregnant Cocker Spaniel?
Springer Spaniel.
Springer Spaniel. The dog was killed.
All right.
You want Ms. Henderson to compensate you for your vet bills,
Correct.
for the value of your dog, and for a certain amount of pain and suffering.
All right. Loss of companionship.
And Ms. Henderson, I'm reading between the lines, says that while it's true that her child accidentally let the dog out,
Yes.
there is no proof that it was her dogs that killed your dog, and that the amount that you are requesting from her seemed to change periodically. I'm not really sure of what your defense is.
Okay.
But I have a couple of questions for you. You read the newspaper?
No.
Ever?
Probably twice the past year.
Well, first of all, that would be a big problem. You have children?
Yes.
How many?
2.
How old are they?
They're 2 and 3.5.
Who takes care of them while you're away?
Their father, my husband.
You live together?
Yes.
Who works?
We both do.
When you're working, who takes care of the children?
We don't work at the same time.
How many pit bulls do you have?
They're actually not pit bulls.
What are they?
They're American Bulldog mixes. This is their license paper showing that they're
You
not.
have pictures of them?
Yes.
I'd like to see them. Are they pit bull mix?
They're mixes. They're American Bulldog mixes, Your Honor.
Well, they both have a lot of pit bull in them.
They're mixes.
Did you hear what I said?
Yes.
All right. So, if you read the newspaper, the reason I'm asking you this question is, I would have said to you, you appear to be an intelligent woman. I'm not certain that you're an intelligent woman. But just yesterday, a woman who had a dog, pit bull, that she raised from a puppy, for no reason, turned on her. For no reason. And chewed off half of her face. Now, that's not the first time that that's happened with this breed of dog, and I'm not condemning this breed of dog. I don't know. I've never owned this breed of dog. I'm just talking to you from a layperson's perspective. So if I were the mother of 2 children, and you know that certain breeds of dog, very large ones, especially ones with the jaw configuration of a pit bull, because once a pit bull grabs hold, because of the way their jaw is configured, I gather, and I've had a lot of pit bull cases, once they grab hold, you can't get them unhooked. Very hard to get them unhooked.
Right.
So they cause more damage than your standard fair dog if they turn on you. That be a fair statement, Miss Henderson?
Sure.
I wouldn't know why the mother of 2 babies would keep a dog that had that potential if they decided to turn. If a 2-year-old, for some reason, took a stick and poked the dog with the stick so that the dog turned on them, which a 2-year-old can do. Listen, I have little tiny dogs, and I have grandchildren. And I watch those dogs around those grandchildren because the grandchildren can go over, not in, poke them in the eye, you pull the fur. And that's the way a dog responds. Dog turns around and there's a nip. Well, there's a difference in a little dog giving your kid a nip and a dog that grabs onto your face and rips it apart. Tell me what happened with your dog.
One evening we were in the house and we heard some screaming outside. I wasn't quite sure what it was until a neighbor knocked on the door and let me know my dog was attacked.
Were you the neighbor?
Yes.
Could you step up, please? Tell me your name.
Michael Palmieri.
Mr. Palmieri, you are a neighbor of the Brady Taylor family?
Yes, I am.
Tell me what you saw on what date?
I don't remember the exact date,
You
Your
remember
Honor.
the date?
It was
September 6th. September 6th?
Yes, it
Okay.
was.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. I heard some commotion upstairs. My wife was screaming hysterically and my son, and I called up. I said, "What's going on?" And she said, "Pit bull attack." And I just ran out with my boxers on. I had nothing else on. I have a small child. Other neighbors have small children. So I didn't know what was going on. I ran out. I saw this one dog with this clamp down on their Cocker Spaniel. I ran over, and I was just hysteric and going crazy, and I went to attack the dog. And the dog sensed that, and he let go. And there was two of them. One of them had him in his mouth, and the other was very close by. And then there was a third one, a little one.
The third one that's a little one, was it the same breed?
You know, I couldn't tell. I don't think so.
Okay. I would like you to describe the two dogs.
Well, the one dog that had the dog in the mouth, there was something very specific about that dog. It had its name written on it, Rex. I don't know if it was spray painted. I don't know if it was dyed.
Where was it written?
Right on its side.
Is that your dog?
Yes.
Oh, good. Well, there we go. That just took care of that.
Yeah.
So after that, you know, I got the dogs off, and I didn't know, because I was trying to capture them. I didn't want the dogs to get away, because this same situation happened with me about a year ago, where I was taking care of a pit bull for a friend while he was away, and that dog got away and attacked a gentleman's small dog and killed it, and I got sued. And I have small children. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And immediately after that, I said, "You got to come get this dog, because I can't have this situation." They are very, very unpredictable. And my daughter loved this dog. So, you know, I understand this is a serious matter. And I like pit bulls. Personally, I don't know, I think they're interesting dogs, but I don't want them around me, and I don't think they're safe dogs. We tried to capture a dog, and as a matter of fact, her brother trapped one of the dogs, and animal control came and got the dog, and they tracked down, I guess they followed it, Neil followed the other dogs, and they found out where the lady lived.
It's her dog. There are very few dogs that look like a pit bull that have their name, Rex, tattooed on their side. She acknowledges that's her dog. So what's the problem, Miss Henderson?
The problem was that these dogs, I do foster placement, these dogs were rescued. So they've been through 3 temperament testings. They've been around 5-pound chihuahuas all the way up to 100-pound dogs. So not only have they, like you're disclosing about the personality of a pit bull, which I'm not discrediting.
Miss Henderson, rescue dogs usually need to be rescued because they've been abandoned by their owner. Sometimes the owner is not a nice person. Sometimes the owner says, "I can't handle this dog." Sometimes rescue dogs have been abused. That would make them even more unpredictable.
Not true.
I want you to just, listen, they're your children. You got a husband, you're supposed to take care of your children, you're supposed to protect them. I've said what I had to say. 10 million people have heard me say it to you. If, God forbid, something happens to one of your children, do you know how awful you're going to feel?
I don't live alone with the
I'm
dog.
just telling you, if, God forbid, something terrible happens to one of your children, you've been now warned, laid out in front of 10 million people. Do you know that you will never in your life recover? Not only won't your children recover, but you will never in your life recover. Now, you've been put on notice by somebody who is not unintelligent that you're doing, as a mother, the wrong thing. As an animal activist, you may be doing the right thing, rescuing dogs, rescuing pit bull mixes that have been abandoned by their owner and have been through teams of 6 dog analysts. I'm telling you, as a mother, you're exposing your children to unnecessary risk and yourself to a lifetime of misery, because if, God forbid, one of these dogs turns on you, like it did turn on this lady in California yesterday, and eats off their face, you will never recover.
So then?
Listen to me. I'm not talking about all those dogs. I'm talking about you.
I understand.
I'm talking about you, who has a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. I'm talking about somebody who is supposed to not only look good, madam, but be marginally intelligent before you have children. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. Nothing that I say is going to get through, that's all.
Sandra Allen says former employers Dasher Lindsay and Ralph Isles owe for babysitting fees. The defendants are countersuing, claiming Sandra made false accusations to Child Protective Services.
Miss Allen, you did babysitting for the defendants.
Correct.
On several different occasions, several different periods of time. And it is your claim that you are owed some wages because you were let go from your job.
Yes.
And you had worked 30 hours.
Correct.
The defendants, while they seem to acknowledge that you were owed wages at the time you left, they say they really owe you nothing because you made a false claim to Child Protective Services about the way that they care for their children, and they are counterclaiming in the amount of $3,000 because of what they say that you put them through. Miss Lindsay, when and where did you find Miss Allen to babysit for your children?
Well, Miss Allen was our children's first babysitter.
And you have 2 children?
We have 3, ma'am.
How long did she babysit for you?
This last time was for 9 months.
And prior to that?
It was off and on for a number of months.
And she was a good babysitter?
Yes, ma'am.
Took good care of your children? You felt comfortable about leaving her with the children?
We trusted her, yes, ma'am.
Good. Miss Allen, then I'm going to come to you. I want you to tell me what happened that caused you to call Child Protective Services and when?
On numerous occasions, the kids would not have enough to eat. They would ask me, can I have some more? I was like, well, there's no more food. And I would offer them, like, okay, give me $100. I'll be more than happy to go to the commissary. It's base where the food's a whole lot cheaper. And, you know, I'll get the food and stuff like that for them. No big deal. No, no, no. We're going to go out. We have our monthly budget. And every end of the month, they go to Sam's and everything, come back with the same thing. And we do the same thing over. The kids' shoes were too small. I purchased a pair of shoes for the 4-year-old girl. We had to go up 2 sizes, and that was in the end of '06. I bought the shoes for her, and I started working for them in August. So that time, her shoes were too small. We bought the baby shoes. She was not a year at the time, and the kids were not getting baths. The dad would go out of town. Every other week, he'd go out of town. No big deal. Mom said it's going to be a long week. Could you give the kids a bath? And I would. But when Dad comes home at 5:30, I would not give the kids a bath. I come in at 10:30 in the morning. The kids had the same clothes on that I put them in the day before. I was like, did you guys get a bath? No, 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 Miss Sandra, could we get a bath? So I was like, well, it's time to get dressed, so we'll just change clothes, and we'll just go out and do our stuff and everything.
What did you tell Child Protective Services when you called them?
That the kids were being neglected and weren't being supervised properly.
Go ahead.
On one occasion, Miss Dasher told me personally that the neighbor down the street came in and told her that the oldest son was sitting, they have a 2-story house, and the son was sitting out on his window throwing things out. And the screen's missing, so he was throwing things out of his window.
What kind of work do you do, Miss Lindsay?
I'm a cook.
For whom?
For a company called Sodexo.
You work full-time?
Yes, ma'am.
And you, sir?
Systems analyst for the same company.
Well, you both have good jobs. You've been working for a while for this company?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any financial problems?
No.
Miss Allen, before you called Child Protective Services, did you discuss with Miss Lindsay and Mr. Lyles your concerns?
No, I did not.
You did not. Who is this lady?
It's my mother.
Would you step up, please? Tell me your last name. When, if ever, did your daughter start to discuss with you the concerns she had about these children?
It was last year. She was seeing different things, and in our area they have a lot of yard sales, and she asked me if I would go out, if I could look for clothes in the children's size and shoes because they were too small, or the winter time. What she said, I'm not sure if it was the 4-year-old didn't have clothes that would fit her for the winter, so I was trying to find jeans and turtlenecks and stuff. And she would bring them over to the house sometime, and I would fix some lunch and everything, because she would say the cup of noodles, that was all they would be eating for lunch, and the sodium in that soup thing was kind of high for a child. So
did she discuss with you before she called Child Protective Services?
No, but she told me that, you know, something needed to be done about what was going on, and I told her, you know, do what she needed to do.
Okay. Do you have the report from Child Protective Services? I'd like to see it.
Yes, ma'am. I have 2, the original when they first came out on the 20th, and the second from the actual caseworker.
How many times did the caseworker visit you in the 2-week period between the date that the report was received and the day they closed the case?
Just twice. The first time, which is A, and then the second time, which is B, when they closed the case. Because on the first visit, she stated that there was nothing but discrepancies in the claims, that the allegations that was made.
Okay. Miss Lindsay or Mr. Lyles, do you have any motive for Miss Allen to have placed this call after the years that she spent with you taking care of your children?
Possibly, yes, ma'am.
Well, I'd like to hear what you think the possible motive is.
That Monday, before the 20th, I believe it was the 16th, Miss Allen came in, normal day. I had spoken to her in regards to, we was paying her an extra stipend for gas because she would pick our son up from school. So we give her extra money on top of her pay each week. Well, gas prices in our area were rising. And she came to me and she stated, Miss Dasher, the news said by Memorial Day, gas prices are going to be sky high. Can I please get more gas money? And I said, well, how much do you want? Because I was previously paying her $20 extra a week for gas. She said $30, and I said, fine, no problem. Okay, that was taken care of. Right before I was getting ready to go to work that day, I reminded Miss Allen that we were soon to be putting our two oldest children, the 4- and the 5-year-old, in private school, in which we was going to be paying for private school, and the only one that would be left would be our 2-year-old. And once we're paying for private school, we wouldn't be able to pay her the same amount that we pay her currently for her nanny services.
Well, how much were you paying her an hour?
$7 an hour during the week, and if she worked on the weekends, it would be $9 an hour, plus the
So you
stipend
wanted
for
to pay her
gas.
less than $7 an hour?
I didn't want to.
No, we were cutting the hours back. That was what we were telling her.
Oh, you were just cutting her hours back?
Yes, it was more like a pre-notice to possibly a 2-week notice when the children started private school. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, and what did she say?
She didn't state much. She said, well, that's fine. By August, I planned on having moved out of my parents' home.
So she wasn't upset about it?
She didn't seem upset, no.
She wasn't upset about that, so that's not a reason. I don't see any reason that she would have, quite frankly, Miss Lindsay, of making this phone call unless she had some legitimate concerns over the 3 children. And the fact that the state didn't find any gross abnormality in your house doesn't mitigate the fact that she felt as if you and your husband may have been a little overwhelmed with full-time jobs and 3 little children, working very hard. You have financial things in the works, private school and all that stuff. Whatever it was, I don't get from Miss Allen that she was being vindictive about anything. You have a reason she might call?
I mean, my sister told me that she was going through personal issues.
Well, first of all, that's hearsay. Second of all, going through personal issues would not necessarily mean she would take it out on you.
Well, it doesn't make sense that she would call. The things that were going on did not happen. I mean, she put our kids in danger.
How did she put your kids in danger?
Because Child Protective Services could have took them away.
Well, they could have if they found that they were substantially neglected or abused. They absolutely could have, but we don't discourage people in this country if they have legitimate concerns from making a report to Child Protective Services so that somebody can come out and take a look at a situation and make sure everything is right. Problem is, too many people don't do anything. And unless I find that there was some motivation other than a legitimate concern for the children's safety, I'm dismissing your counterclaim and she's going to get the wages that were owed to her. Her mother seems to say, who is a lady that I assume you knew.
Yes, ma'am, we did.
That her daughter had confided in her previously that she was concerned about the children.
She never confided in us. Up until that day, Miss Allen and I had never had any problems communicating.
You may not have had any problems. Do you remember when she bought your 4-year-old shoes?
She bought my 2-year-old shoes.
Or your 2-year-old shoes? Do you remember when she did that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know why she did that?
I had just bought my 2-year-old shoes. She
Yeah,
did
we
it
have
because
the 2 pairs of shoes.
Yes.
It is unlikely that she would have spent her money, the hard-earned money that the $7 an hour, which is the
She
minimal
didn't have
amount.
any bills.
What?
She didn't have any bills.
I have bills.
She didn't have any bills, so she should spend the money on your children?
No, she liked doing things for our children. She took them to McDonald's. She did things for them. That was.
So she was a really good caregiver.
Yes, she was.
We're not.
Well,
She
then
had no right to call Child Protective
Yes,
Services.
she did.
There was nothing wrong with the way we
That's
raised
the
our
way.
children.
That's your perception. But if she's the kind of caregiver that you say she is, to her eye, these children were not being adequately cared for while in your care. And before the state takes children away, there has to be some overriding reason because they got plenty of children in foster care. So if it's a question of children not getting more than noodle soup or not getting a bath every day, they're not going to remove children from a home. But that doesn't mean somebody who loves the children, as she clearly did according to you, should tolerate what she perceives as neglect. So your counterclaim is dismissed. You owe her $226 salary and $30 for gas. Hey, that's all.
26-year-old Lauren Wilson is suing former roommate Natasha Safai for destroying her clothes and other belongings. She is also seeking the return of 1 month's rent.
Miss Wilson, the defendant was a friend of yours, and there came a time, sometime last year, that she invited you to come down to Florida to live with her. For whatever reason, you decided to take her up on that offer and move to Florida from where?
Salisbury, Maryland.
The understanding, according to you, was that the first month she would forgive the rent,
right,
and then you would be able to get a job, start paying your share of the expenses. According to you, you got down to Florida in November.
It was the first week in November, yes.
And according to you, at some point in November, you gave her a check for $175.
No, it was cash.
Cash. For $175 for next month's expenses.
In anticipation of December's rent, yes.
When did you give that to her?
I think it was about the 11th or the 12th of November.
Is that correct, Ms. Safari?
Yes.
Good. So mid-month you gave her rent towards December.
Right.
And then you had a falling out. When was the falling out?
It was pretty much steadily. We were just bickering all the time.
What was the date she told you to leave?
It was the 16th of November.
And at that time she told you that you had 24 hours to get your stuff out.
Right.
Is that right?
Yes.
And you claimed that when you finally were able to get all of your stuff, some had been destroyed.
Yes,
with bleach.
a lot of it is.
A lot had been destroyed, and some electrical items that you brought had been placed outside on the front porch, and by the time you got to get them, they were gone.
Right.
Ms. Safai says that she did not destroy your property, and she put out the property because you did not come within 24 hours to get your property, and she wasn't keeping it in the house, aside from the fact that she thought you were staying home all day fooling around with her boyfriend.
Right.
Which is why you told her to leave.
Yes, it is.
Right?
Yes.
What made you think she was fooling around with your boyfriend, Miss Sapphire?
Because a roommate that I had staying there that was getting ready to move out was also home during the day, and she was informing me that Lauren and my ex-boyfriend were spending a lot of time together during the day in the room. They were also making phone calls back and forth to each other.
So did you confront your boyfriend?
Yes, I did.
What'd he say?
He said that it wasn't true. But I trust the girl that, had been my roommate.
So how long did you keep the boyfriend after you had her leave?
A few months. We're no longer together.
Why didn't you kick him out?
He wasn't living with me.
Kick him out of your life is my question. Why kick her out? Why not kick him out?
I did eventually, just not at the same time.
Why? Because a good man nowadays is hard to find? What is it? Well, let me tell you this, Miss Sapphire. You cannot give her 24 hours to get out of your house. She gave you $175, which according to both of you went towards rent. She then becomes a tenant, whether she's on the lease or not. She's your tenant. And unless there is some action that is dangerous to your health and welfare that she's doing in the house, like selling drugs out of your house, inviting people over there that are destroying your property, you don't have the prerogative to say to her, under the law, you have to get out immediately. So that's one thing. So A, you have to return to her the $175. B, you put her stuff out on the porch. What did you put out on the porch?
I put her clothes and all the rest of her stereo system, all the stuff that she had brought, I put outside.
You can't do that.
Well, I didn't destroy her stuff like that. I have my witness that was with me when I put the stuff outside, and it did not look like that when I put it outside.
Well, then you didn't take good enough care of it, madam, because then somebody else did it, but it's your fault. You can't put her stuff outside and place her stuff in a position of either being stolen or destroyed or vandalized by other people. You can't do that. So I don't care what your witness says. Once you put that stuff out, having no right to put that stuff out because she's a tenant in your apartment, you are responsible for anything that happens to it. That's it. It's not a hard case. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $383. That's all.
$383?
$1,383.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're right.
Jennifer Day is suing her ex-boyfriend, 24-year-old Spencer Fenimore, for breaking a lease. Spencer claims there was no lease to break.
Miss Day, you and Mr. Fenimore lived together for a period of time, signed a lease on an apartment, lived together during the course of that lease. The lease was renewed, according to you, for another 6 months, and Mr. Fenimore moved out after a month or so. You want him to be responsible for his half of the remainder of the lease. Mr. Fenimore, while he acknowledges that you signed an initial lease together, his defense is that he did not sign the renewal, that you must have signed for him. You knew that he was intending to leave, that things weren't going well between the two of you, and he is not responsible for the second part of the lease. So can I see the first lease that you signed? When did you move in together?
It was, I believe, December 2004.
Well, the lease was signed November 2005.
I think it was 2004. I'm not real correct on that.
Well, what am I looking at? November 29, 2005. What?
That's probably our renewal lease.
I didn't ask for the renewal. I asked for the original lease.
This isn't the actual lease, but it's part of the first lease that has the 12/8/04 date that Spencer was speaking of.
Can I see it, please? Okay. So the original was signed on 12/8/04, and you claim the renewal was signed by him on November 29th, 2005.
That's correct.
Is that right, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you sign the renewal?
Yes.
You said in your answer you didn't sign the renewal.
I signed the renewal that went from November 2005 until May 2006. She's suing me from May 2006 to November 2006.
Got it. So who has that renewal?
The one that I handed to you shows that we went in the office and verbally renewed, and I have a letter from the office dated June 1st.
You can't verbally renew. Cannot verbally renew a 6-month lease. That's ridiculous. He says he did not renew the lease. You have no proof that he did renew the lease.
If he didn't want to renew the lease, Your Honor, he shouldn't have stayed there till July.
Because then you can have a month-to-month tenancy.
Okay.
You can have a month-to-month tenancy and pay every month until the landlord says, listen, I don't want to give you a month-to-month tenancy anymore. You have to leave within 30 days. Then you leave.
Right.
But you can't obligate him. Sorry. Case is dismissed.
Grace Collins says former business associate Melissa Ballin owes for a trip to India and for unpaid loans. Melissa says the trip and money were compensation for her work.
Ms. Collins, according to what I read, you hired the defendant to do some filming for you for a documentary that was going to be shot. According to your complaint, you bought a ticket, a non-refundable ticket, for her to India, gave it to her. And in addition, you claim that you made a loan to her in the amount of $400 or $500. The trip was canceled because your visa was terminated. You needed a visa to travel there. And the defendant kept the ticket and refuses to give you back your $500. The defendant says you told her to keep the ticket. She used the ticket. She went to the Cannes Film Festival. The trip was canceled not because of anything she did. She had given up her housing in anticipation of going with you. She says she doesn't owe you anything, the $500 that you did in fact give her for expenses that she incurred. Okay. Just tell me what this briefly, what this documentary was about.
First of all, my name is Grace Collins, and I'm the honorary ambassador of Nagaland.
Just listen to me. This is not an audition. I know your name is Collins, and all I want you to do is answer my question. My question is a simple one. Can you answer
We
it?
were going to expose the genocide in Nagaland.
Genocide of?
The Naga people in Northeast India.
Have you been there before?
Yes, I have.
How many times?
Once before.
When?
2005.
And when did you meet Miss Balin?
I met her on January 21st, 2009, the day after the inauguration.
What is your profession?
I'm a filmmaker, an independent filmmaker.
Have you ever made anything that was commercially successful?
Yes. Yes,
What?
I've produced 5 feature films since the age of 19.
Is that how you make a living?
You could call it a living, yes.
No, I'm asking you what you call it.
It's not quite enough of a living, but it is my
What do
sole
you do?
source of income.
It is your sole source of
Yes.
income? Okay. Tell me about the trip to India.
We were planning to go on February 8th, from like February 8th to the 17th.
And what arrangements did you make with her for payment?
That I would just pay for her air ticket and visas.
What about her expenses?
There would be no additional expenses.
Well, how was she going to live there between the 8th
the
and the
Nagas
17th?
would pay for everything, the hotel, food, and everything.
Plus,
that's how they host.
And all the expenses.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
All of us got our visas, except for one gentleman that she was bringing to the table.
How much did it cost to get your visa?
$73 a person.
Okay.
So she had to fly up from LA to San Francisco because there is no consulate that could do it in such a short amount of time. So she flew up to San Francisco, and then she called me from San Francisco subway station and said she lost her wallet, and therefore I would need to pay her some more money.
Well, how much money had you given her to fly to San Francisco?
$350.
Go ahead.
And then on 2 days before we were to leave, I got a call from the Indian consulate that my visa was revoked. Prior to that, the minute I got the visas, I purchased tickets online. And this is how I travel. You can see proof that I got my visa and all the travel
Well,
that
your
I've
visa
done.
was revoked, and you got the airline ticket, and the airline ticket was non-refundable.
I did not realize that, but I've never
it was.
canceled a trip before in my whole life.
You say that the airline ticket was non-refundable.
That's what they told me.
Fine.
If-
and how
if
much
I
was,
may, Your
just a
Honor?
second, how much was her ticket?
$1,114.40.
Okay. When did you cancel the trip?
Well, the minute we heard our visas were revoked.
What date?
February 6th.
And when did you call the defendant and let her know that the trip was going
The
to
same
be...
day.
Okay. And what did you tell her to do with her ticket?
I told her I was fighting the case on the basis of frustration of purpose. Our mission was to go there, and we were not able to go by a third entity, a known entity of having our visas revoked, that I was going to fight it.
I understand that you were fighting it. What happened with your ticket, by the way?
Well, in my case, my father had 3 seizures at the same time.
What happened with your ticket?
I was refunded my ticket on the basis of my father's illness.
But canceled the ticket?
No. I canceled it based on revoked visa.
Ms. Collins, are you telling me that you provided medical documentation about your father's seizures to the airlines, and based on that they refunded your money?
Yes.
Well, then that was false. That's what you're telling me. I mean, that wasn't the reason that you weren't going.
No, on both reasons. I told him it was a revoked visa, and it was also my father.
When
had
did
gotten
you
sick.
turn in your ticket?
When did I convert my ticket to use it? Shortly before April 3rd.
Okay. Now, trip was canceled in February, correct?
Yes.
Between February and April, what communication did you have with Ms. Collins about returning that ticket to you?
About somewhere up to 30 days from the cancellation of the trip, Ms. Collins called me to notify me that Continental Airlines had denied her claim, that the tickets were non-refundable, that she was going to have to litigate against the Indian government to be reimbursed because she had gone through all the procedures with Continental, and that the ticket was only usable in my name, that she would not be reimbursed, and that the ticket was only good for 1 year. So could I use the ticket, she suggested, and pay her the difference so that she could be reimbursed? I was very clear during that phone conversation that as an independent filmmaker, I was not in the position to take a trip and reimburse her, and that I wouldn't use the ticket.
How was she to be reimbursed with regard to the time that she'd spent in San Francisco?
We never discussed that because we didn't even know that was going to happen.
So that, at least in part, you would say, Ms. Collins, the payment that the defendant was to recoup as a result of this enterprise was she was going to get a free trip to someplace and have all of her expenses paid and have the ability to participate in the making of this documentary.
Only in Nagaland.
I understand that.
This whole thing about coming from LA to San Francisco came out of the blue.
Well, she had to go there. You explained that to me. She couldn't get it in Los Angeles.
I know, but I'm saying...
She couldn't get it in Los Angeles. She had to travel to San Francisco.
Right, but I'm saying...
In furtherance of the project.
Correct.
All right. Fine.
But I'm saying...
Miss Collins, what happened was, and I gather, Miss Balin, what you did was you converted the ticket and you used it for travel someplace else.
At her suggestion.
Well, what she wanted you to do was to see if you could use it and give her money.
Right, and at that
then you
point...
you said, I'm not doing that.
And she said, then use it anyway because it's void in 1 year time.
Yeah. She wouldn't have gotten back her money from the airlines if she hadn't submitted a medical reason of her father's illness in order to get it back, and she certainly couldn't use that for you.
And I confirmed...
Just a second.
Sorry.
How many other airline tickets did you purchase, Miss Collins?
I purchased 4.
Were you able to get any other money back other than for your ticket?
Not yet. I'm still in the process.
The answer is no.
I'm in the process of...
The answer is no, correct?
I'm still working on it.
The answer is no.
No, for now.
Well, no, for now. And the only reason you got yours back is because you lied to the airlines.
I did not lie.
Yes, you did.
No, I can prove that my father...
Absolutely. Stop playing.
I can prove my father's medical.
Listen to me.
Can you take this up to
No, he can't. Listen to me very carefully. Look at me. You tried to get it back based upon the fact that your visa was revoked. That's what you told me first. You couldn't. And then somebody said to you, well, see if you can use a medical excuse, because if a close family member is ill...
It all happened at the same time. It happened at the
Ms.
same
Collins,
time.
I tell you what we do. I'm dismissing your case with regard to the airline ticket without prejudice. If you are successful in recouping from the airlines money for the other 2 tickets that you purchased, you have leave to come back here. I don't think that that's going to happen.
The
Did you sue the other?
supervisors-
Just a second.
On the basis
Did you
of
sue?
frustration
Did
of
you
purpose.
sue? You tried frustration of purpose.
No, I did not
It
yet.
didn't work.
No, I have not.
Well, then why did you use a different reason for yourself than you want to use for everybody else?
Well, that also happened at exactly the same
Okay.
time, which you can see.
Did you hear my answer?
Could you please?
I'm not looking at it. It's irrelevant.
It's very relevant. If your father had 3 seizures.
It's irrelevant to your claim. I just told you if you are successful in suing for the return of the money for the other 2 tickets, you have leave to come back against this defendant. I don't know if the decision will be the same or different, but you have leave to come back. Now let's get to the money that you allegedly loaned her. How much money did you give her in total?
I gave her an extra $146.
$146 you gave her twice.
Correct.
Is that correct?
It was the initial $350 and an additional $146.
Okay. And the $146 you either lost or was stolen, is that right?
Well,
that's either a yes or a no.
Yes.
Okay, so that you owe her, $146, because she gave that to you once. She doesn't have to give it to you twice. Now,
But my
what
trip
about
was
the
extended.
Yeah, what about the other money?
$500, which she clearly says here that she loaned me. I mean, that I
like to
loaned
see
her
it.
and that she's going to give it back to me.
I'd like to see that.
And can I present as well the email?
Fine. So I have here an indication that you acknowledge this $500 as a loan that she made to you. And you say, since we will not be working together on this project, I will get you the $500 that you loaned me as soon as possible. I told you at the time that I didn't know when I could get it back to you, and you said not to worry. Unfortunately, I still do not have it, and you are right about my personal finances, so I will focus on getting a job to pay you back as soon as possible.
And the sentence prior to that indicates it was always intended that I would donate my time to get the project off the ground, but the intention was to raise financing for the short documentary and that I would receive a consulting fee for that.
I understand
and that, would be
but that
deducted.
never happened.
He
It was a loan.
canceled the film.
No, she didn't cancel the film. The film was canceled.
The trip to India was canceled.
Correct.
But I was still working for her after the
Just a
trip was
second.
canceled.
You want to show me somewhere where
There's
you say
more
I
in there,
don't
too.
owe you this $500? Is that what you want to show me?
Yes.
Where does it say that?
Further down in the email, the second paragraph, I will not be reimbursing you for any of these costs now or in the future.
No.
I
We
will...
were discussing the trip was canceled. I will not be reimbursing you for any of those costs now or in the future. In turn, I will not be billing you for any of my time or for the week I lost trying to procure visas in San Francisco. Okay, but you owe her the $500.
It was to be deducted from my salary.
No.
You owe her the $500. Stop it. You're embarrassing yourself. Anything else, Ms. Collins?
Yeah, there's more in there.
What?
I mean, more references that was just a loan.
I acknowledge that was a loan.
Okay.
Can I submit, Your Honor, that my visa was not revoked?
I don't care.
Okay.
I don't care.
There's no way she could go into Nagaland. Nobody can go as a single person there.
Listen to me, madam. You have my answer with regard to the airplane ticket. You were able to get yours reimbursed, whatever way you chose to get yours reimbursed.
Because
Don't show me about your father. If what you say to me is, you were the leader of this troop, and as leader of the troop, you couldn't go because of your father's illness, then you should have been able to get the other people's money back on the other 2 tickets that you purchased, right? But you didn't, and you can't get hers. I told you, you get the airlines to reimburse the other 2. Come back and maybe we'll talk. Right now, all she owes you is $646. Judgment for the plaintiff, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Linda Banks is suing her neighbor, Herbert Robertson, for accidentally shooting out her windows with a BB gun. Herbert claims he's a better shot than that.
Ms. Banks, Mr. Robertson is your neighbor, and it is your claim that he shot out some windows in your home with a BB gun.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Robertson, while he acknowledges the fact that he was shooting his BB gun, said that A, it's impossible for the gun to have pierced the windows of your house because it would have to go through a bunch of trees, and B, it would be impossible anyway because he's a very good shot. And he was shooting at squirrels, and he knows that because he's such a good shot, he would not have missed and damaged your property. Those are your two defenses. Is that right, sir?
Pretty much.
Tell me where I'm wrong. I like to know where I'm wrong.
Well, yeah, I might miss on occasion.
Oh.
But, like I said, we're in front of the big tree, so...
Okay. Miss Banks, have you had any trouble with Mr. Robertson before?
Yes, I have.
With what?
About 5 years ago.
Stop playing with that, please. It's distracting me, and at my age, nothing should distract me when I'm trying to work. Yes.
Approximately 5 years ago, Your Honor, he installed a pool improperly in his backyard, and that pool ruptured, and the water came down my backyard because he lives here and I live here, and approximately 19,000 gallons of water came into my basement. And what I did was I asked him to come over to survey the damage. He did, and his comment was that it wasn't that bad. But because we're neighbors and I tried to handle it civilly, I settled with his insurance company for $1,200, and there was a lot more damage than that, let alone the time. And I asked him to just help me clean it up, and he refused to do that. This time, when I discovered the damage, I said I wasn't going to let it go.
Since the incident 5 years ago, I assume that the relationship between the two of you has been strained.
Yes.
What date were you shooting at squirrels, Mr. Robertson, when Miss Banks came over and told you had damaged her windows?
Oh, she never did.
Who did?
I did. This guy. I mean, I was out in the backyard one day, and he hollers at me and says, you shot my garage window. I said, well, I don't know if I did, but if I did, I'll replace it. He says, don't worry about it. I just wanted you to know about it. And so ever since then, we quit shooting the BB guns.
Well, when was this, sir, that you told him he shot out the window?
It was the third week of July. His son was out shooting and actually shot over top of my head.
How old is your son?
16.
You know that you could hurt somebody with a BB gun?
If you hit somebody, it'd probably sting.
Well, if you hit him in the eye, it could blind him.
Probably could.
If you hit him in the ear, it could make him go deaf.
Probably could.
So why do you do it?
I didn't.
No, why do you let your son play with a BB gun?
Well, I imagine there's probably 40, 50 kids in that neighborhood got BB guns.
I don't give a rat's behind about 40 or 50 kids. I'm asking you, why do you let your son shoot a BB gun?
Because I don't see anything wrong with it. It's my yard. If he wants to shoot a pop can or something in the backyard, that's no problem. This guy's saying he got one shot over his head. I doubt it. How would you know?
Because you can hear it coming through the...
You can't hear a BB.
Mr. Robertson.
Yeah, it's like, may I say something?
Yes.
I mean, it's like we're talking about the swimming pool. 19,000 gallons of water didn't go in her basement. I did go and survey the damage. It didn't look that bad.
Went into her basement?
My insurance company took it.
When I'm speaking, you see, you may be able... Is this your wife?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You may be able to interrupt her. Don't interrupt me.
No, I was speaking.
No. But when I start to speak, Mr. Robertson, you have to stop. That's the way we play here in my playpen.
That's fine.
Good. Can I see the damage to your house, please?
Yes, ma'am. I have police reports as well, if you would like to see those.
I would.
And then also I've included estimates.
Good. How many windows?
3 windows, and then the truck windshield.
Well, either you or your son have lousy aim, sir.
Would you mind asking this man if he did agree, that I told him I'd take care of the window, and he said, don't worry about it, I just wanted you to be aware of it? Because after that date, we never shot anymore.
When you first...
Shh, don't answer him.
It's like rock damage to me. No BB did that.
Yes.
Judge Judy, I would like to add, originally, the first incident he did offer to pay. The second incident was August the 11th, the date of the police report.
And on the second incident, how many windows were shot out?
That's when we discovered the damage of the second additional, the bedroom window, and then the truck window.
Got it. Still have the BB gun, Mr. Robertson?
Yeah.
Still let your son use it?
Like I said, nobody shot it since he said I shot his garage window out.
Well, you don't know that, sir. You do work, don't you? You do
no,
work.
I don't.
You don't work?
No.
Why not?
I'm disabled.
What's the nature of your disability?
Back. I've had 5 back surgeries.
Really? How can you shoot a BB gun with a bad back?
A BB gun?
Yeah, how can you pick up a BB gun?
Well, how much do you think it weighs?
It's kind of hard to shoot. Well, incapacitating. It seems to be if you can do this, you can sit at a desk and answer a phone.
Well, I'm just saying, I offered to pay for it. He said, don't worry about it. And that was the end of the shooting.
He doesn't want you to, no, listen to me. He doesn't want you to worry about it. He wants you to pay for it. There's a difference.
I offered to pay for it.
Good.
Ask my wife.
Oh, I won't. She has to go home with you.
For
that she has
you
my
done made your
sincere
mind up.
condolences.
And like I said, I thought you were innocent until you're proven guilty.
That's what we just did.
No, you didn't.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,200. Thank you. That's all.
It don't matter.
Tricia Thomas and her fiancé Wesley McMillan are suing former friend Billy Chrisley for causing them to be ticketed for the possession of marijuana.
According to what I read, you were traveling in 2 cars, leaving Texas on your way to Arkansas because of Hurricane Rita.
Yes, ma'am.
You were traveling behind Miss Thomas.
Yes, ma'am.
In the car that you were traveling in was Mr. McMillan, one of Miss Thomas's children.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Thomas was traveling in front of you, and in your car was another one of your children?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chrisley, you were pulled over by the police.
Yes, ma'am.
For tailgating.
Yes, ma'am.
What did the policeman say to you?
Well, he pulled me over for tailgating. That's what he told me he pulled me over for.
In what state were you when you
In
got
Oklahoma.
pulled? Oklahoma.
We were on our way back.
Go ahead.
So he pulled us over. He asked me for my license, registration, all that for the car. And I told him I didn't have my license, and I just got the car, so I didn't have no insurance, no registration, no nothing on it, because I just got it.
Well, what about your license?
It was expired, and I still had to leave to go to Arkansas, and I just drove back,
Could we move on, please? What else did the police officer say to you?
So he ran my record and everything else. Then he asked me if I had anything, and I told him yes. And so he went back to
Well, you said yes, and he said, what?
No, we just went back to my car. I gave him what I had.
Well, what did you have?
I just had maybe a joint and a half.
Of marijuana?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you have it?
In my center console.
Where'd you get it from?
I brought it from home.
Had you used it while you were in Arkansas?
Yes, ma'am.
And you only had a little bit left?
Yes, ma'am.
Anyway, so now, against that backdrop, Officer Byrd, the police officer gave him a ticket and also gave Mr. McMillan a ticket because under the laws in the state of Oklahoma, if there's marijuana or drugs in the car, everybody's responsible. So everybody gets a ticket. So Mr. McMillan got a ticket, and Miss Thomas over here had to pay the ticket, or else she was leaving Mr. McMillan in Oklahoma. And she wanted him home because it looks to me as if you're expecting.
Yes, ma'am.
How wonderful.
Tricia Thomas and fiancé Wesley McMillan say former friend Billy Chrisley caused them to be cited for possession of marijuana.
So since you had to come up with this money because of his personal use marijuana, you really feel as if he should take care of the ticket.
Correct.
I don't think I should because I already admitted up to my own stuff.
Well, why is it his fault?
Well, I don't see why the cop gave him a ticket for my stuff. I already gave it to him.
Because that's the law. I haven't seen that law, but I must assume in Oklahoma, if you are an adult and you are apprehended or stopped in a car and there is contraband, you know what that is? You know, bad stuff, yeah. Contraband?
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody in the car is responsible.
Okay.
That's the law. So your suggestion that he sue the cop really doesn't make sense. Now, if you said to me, look, he shared the marijuana with me, he smoked the marijuana in Arkansas, he knew it was there because we both used it together.
Well, we did.
Did you?
Yes, ma'am.
Ooh, where did you do that?
While we were up there.
In Arkansas?
Yes, ma'am.
Really? You sure?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Mr. McMillan.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I've been clean from every drug and alcohol for over 6 months and still going.
Well, sometimes there's a little bit of stress, Mr. McMillan, when you're escaping a hurricane.
Nope.
Because of the stress, he started smoking cigarettes again.
That was it.
Where were you in Arkansas, sir, when he was smoking this marijuana with you?
We were at the person's house that we were staying at. We just walked around the woods.
No, ma'am. The only time that me and Mr. Chrisley ever took a walk, we went to the woods. There was nothing ever done. We ran down the side of a mountain and came back up, and that was it.
Now, when was your license suspended?
It was suspended in about, I think, 2002.
For what?
My dad gave me the keys to his truck so to give back to my mom. And when the cop pulled me over, they searched me, and all I had in there was, I had a 12-pack, but there was only 6 of them left. But when they searched the truck, they found a little baby roach that was in a film case that was in the truck, which I didn't know was there.
More drugs and alcohol?
Well, the alcohol was mine.
Was inside your belly, inside your little tummy? 6-pack?
Yes.
So you lost your license because of drugs and alcohol?
No, it was just the drugs. They didn't charge me with
Just the
alcohol.
drugs. How'd you come up with the $940 to pay your ticket?
My ticket was $1,261.
Well, how'd you come up with $1,261
I had to borrow it from my mom, and I'm still paying her back. They had to use their house note to pay for that fine. And by the time it added all up, it was $1,343.
You want to know something?
Yes, ma'am.
I believe him. I believe that Mr. McMillan knew that he had marijuana.
I didn't know he had it in the car.
I know you didn't, but Mr. McMillan did, and I believe he used it with him. Now, that certainly would indicate to me that he bore some responsibility for this marijuana being in the car. So I suggest you get your money from him. And while the defendant acknowledges that this was his marijuana, everything else he's told me, I believe. He's not making up this stuff because he's certainly not making himself look too good, right? You understand that I don't think you look like a model citizen.
Which I know I'm not.
We know you're not.
Yes, ma'am.
But I believe you when you say that he was smoking marijuana with you in Arkansas. You are telling me the truth, aren't you, sir? I believe you. So that being the case, Mr. McMillan, you pay your own ticket, and I suggest you reimburse your fiancé for the ticket. You knew the stuff was there. You enjoyed it while you were in Arkansas. You got to pay the piper. Case dismissed. That's all.
Dana Kellogg claims ex-boyfriend Mark Kitchenmaster owes for child support. Mark says he and Dana were living together off and on, so he owes nothing.
Ms. Kellogg, I've read your complaint. You and the defendant have a child together, separated, and at some point reconciled. How old is your child? When did you reconcile?
Middle of July.
July of 07. And when you reconciled, you moved back to his house?
Yes, I did.
With the 8-year-old?
Yes, I did.
At the time, Mr. Kitchenmaster
Yes.
had a payroll deduction order levied against his salary for child support.
Correct.
And how much money was being taken out of your check?
$127 a week.
This is your complaint. You lived together for 2.5 months. It didn't work out. According to you, Mr. Kitchenmaster threw you out unceremoniously. So you want some sort of wrongful eviction. That's not going to happen. You were paying rent?
No. I was providing towards the expenses in the home and giving Mr. Kitchenmaster his child support back.
Well, anyway, you didn't have a lease with him. This is not a wrongful eviction, so that part of your complaint is dismissed.
It's fine.
It is your claim that the money was taken out of his check. You got it. You gave him that money back in cash.
Yes, I did.
Just a second. And when you finally left the home, because it didn't work out, Mr. Kitchenmaster went to the state, advised them that you had been living with him for 2.5 months. The state stopped your child support for 2.5 months.
Front of court.
And you want that money back because it is your claim that you returned the money to him.
Yes, ma'am.
In cash. Mr. Kitchenmaster says you never gave him any money in cash. You may have given money in cash for expenses for the house, but it was not a return of the child support. Is that your claim?
Yes.
I assume, Ms. Kellogg, that you have bank records that are going to indicate to me $127 a week coming into your account, and then a cash withdrawal of $127 within a day or 2 or 3 of
the same day.
The deposit.
I have the same day.
Can I see it,
and my
please?
witnesses as well.
Can I see it, please?
I had a deposit of... Okay.
Okay. I see that $127 came in, and I see on the same date $100 came out.
I withdrew $100 each Monday, and I gave him $100 of that child support, minus the $27.
Just a minute. What other money did you give him?
I gave him money out of my payroll.
Just a second. I mean, you were living there with your child, and I assume paying part of the expenses.
Yes.
Because this looks to me as if every time he sent you child support, you took $100 and you said, here is for my contribution to the household.
No.
So you say that you gave him additional money.
I did.
Show me.
I gave him cash money out of my
Show
pay.
me.
I bought groceries, and I took care of the children fully while I was there.
What did you pay towards rent?
He didn't ask for rent.
Well, what was this $100 for?
That $100 was to give him back his child support.
You didn't give him back his child support. His child support was $127. You only gave him $100. You have a witness? Just a second. Just a second. I want to hear a witness because somebody wants to raise their hands and tell me something. So I want to hear what you have to say. Who are you?
I'm Brittany. I'm her daughter.
Yeah. Did you move in too?
Yeah.
Just a minute. Hold on a second. So it wasn't just you and the 8-year-old. It was you and your 8-year-old and your daughter.
Yeah, it was 3 kids. Me, my sister, and my brother.
So you brought 2 other children with you?
Yes.
And how much were you paying for their support?
I was paying for their support completely.
How? Show me.
Your Honor,
Yes.
her 22-year-old son also moved back in with us for a while.
No, I
No,
want you
he
to
didn't.
show me, listen to me, I want you to show me somewhere in your bank records that you took out each month and gave him money for the support of yourself and your 2 other children.
I cashed my payroll and we discussed what the bills were, and I paid him towards phone bills and groceries, and I took care of my children completely as far as clothing or anything that they needed that whole duration.
What
I
was
there.
this $100 for, Mr. Kitchen Master?
She said that it was my child support, returning my child support, and there was no bill paying. I received $580 from her, and that was it.
$580 in total for the
Cash.
2.5 months that you lived there, and that includes these $100. Does that include this
That was those $100.
That's not
these
true.
$100 payments?
Yes, $580 total, and it would have been $600, but she had to borrow $20 back because she didn't have the money. She didn't have any money. She told
That's
me.
not true, Your Honor.
Who are
I
you?
work at
Well,
Who are you?
Mrs. Kellogg's witness.
Come up. Tell me what you know. Tell me your name.
My name is Natalie Vlahos. I am a friend of Dana, and I am a friend of Mr. Kitchenmaster. At one point, when they got into an argument, and they were fighting, and they were splitting up and breaking up, I went to Mr. Kitchenmaster's house, and I spoke to him, and his main concern was that he wasn't getting his child support back. And I said, isn't Dana giving you the child support every week? And he said to me, yes, she is, but she's keeping gas money. And I said, well, what is she keeping? He said, she's keeping $27. I said, well, she does have to go back and forth to work. Part of the child support is to make her able to support the children that she has.
That's not true. That's not what it's for. The child support is only for the child, not for her.
That's right.
He was telling me...
Just a second. Only for the child.
Well, I'm wrong. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just telling you if that's what you think. That's not what the child support is for.
Thank you. But he did tell me that he was getting child support back.
You're not following what I'm saying. How was she paying the expenses, her share of rent for herself and 3 children, her share of gas, electric, phone, all of those other things? And if what you're telling me is that that's the $100 that you were contributing to the household.
That's not all I was contributing.
Well, then you have to show me. How much were you making in your job?
I gross $800 a pay. I have a pay stub here.
How much were you bringing home each week, every 2 weeks?
Your Honor, I can't testify. I don't mean to interject, but I can't testify to this because I didn't live in the house.
I understand that. I'm not asking you that question. I'm asking her that question.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Kellogg. Go ahead.
I contribute everything I make towards
bills. Would you please answer my question?
What was that?
How much were you bringing home every week, every 2 weeks?
Around $540 every 2 weeks, and I make my own car payments
Just a second. $540 every 2 weeks.
Yes.
Now, what's your car payment?
$187 a month.
Insurance?
$100 a month.
That's $287 right off the top. You have how many children that lived with you?
3.
3, including the 8-year-old?
Yes.
Did you ever have an older child that moved in for a while?
He came and stayed for 1 week. He lives in Traverse City.
Okay. So at some point there, you had 4 children living there.
Well, he wasn't living there. He was visiting.
He was eating, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Not provided by Mr. Kitchenmaster.
Just a second. Your children, food, gas, electric, let's say it's $100 a week. That's $400 a month. $687. So that leaves you $300 left over for clothes, expenses, school, lunches, after-school activities. There's no way that you were giving him any money for rent. There's no way. You don't have money. You had absolutely no money.
I gave him cash on all the bills that he had.
Fine. Okay. Listen, I absolutely understand what you're talking about, sir. She doesn't get it. She says it's a return of your child support. It wasn't. It was to support herself and her other children.
Right. You're right.
And
I went to the front of the court, and I pulled up all my statements of what I pay a weekly.
now I understand. It costs more to run a household with 6 people in it than $100. I got it.
Very
How many people from your end lived in the house?
I live by myself.
So it was just the plaintiff and her either 3 or 4 children, one of whom is yours?
Yes.
Okay? And for that, she was contributing $100 a week.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Yeah, your case is dismissed, madam. That's all. He's had an absolute right to get his money back. That's all.
Victoria Klaus says former tenant Kelly Stafford moved out owing for rent. Victoria also claims Kelly vandalized the home.
Miss Klaus, you own a rental property, and the defendant was a tenant of yours for, according to your complaint, about 5 years.
Yes, she was a former friend first and then tenant.
But she was a paying tenant for 5 years. What was the rent on the house?
$630 a month.
Nope.
No.
What was the rent?
It started out at $590, and then it went up halfway through the 5 years to $620.
Well, that's not much of an increase over the course of 5 years. It is your claim that when she left, she owed you some rent, and also that when you went there after she moved out, the place was a disaster.
Yes.
Costing thousands of dollars in renovations.
Yep.
Ms. Stafford says that she left in mid-April of this past year. She, in fact, gave you rent for half the month of April in cash, and that she left the house in fine condition. She doesn't know what happened, but certainly she left the house in fine condition. When did you pay your rent, Miss Stafford? At the beginning of each month?
Yeah, that's not true, Your
Just a second. Don't interrupt when I'm asking her questions. And you paid, according to you, in the last part of the tenancy, $620 a month.
Yes.
How much money did you give Miss Klaus for April?
$310.
Well, you can't do that.
Okay.
You have to pay for a month's rent. If you choose to move out in the middle of the month, that's your prerogative. But you can't pay for a certain number of days unless you have a previous agreement to do that.
And we did. We talked at the end of March. I told her that I would be moving on the 15th, and she said, "You're kind of leaving me in a jam. That's not fair."
She's absolutely right.
Right. And I told her, and I said,
Well,
but
she's
there's nothing
right.
I can
You
do.
won't
I said
believe
I can do
Shh,
what
I'm speaking. Don't speak over me. You told her at the end of March you were going to be moving out April 15th, so you gave her no notice.
There was no lease.
But you gave her no notice after 5. Okay. So let us say I believe you that you gave her $300 in cash. Did she give you $300 in cash?
Yep.
Then you owe her $320.
I gave her $310.
Okay, then you owe her $310.
Already.
Because you can't dictate to her that you're going to be moving out at the middle of the month and you only owe half a month's rent. You owe the entire month's rent.
Okay, because she told me that she agreed to that. That would be fine.
I don't believe that at all. I didn't even have to ask her.
Okay.
Once she says you're leaving me in a lurch by giving me no notice at the end of March, she's not going to say, well, I'm going to be real nice to you. You only have to pay me for half a month.
Okay.
Try to play it straight with me, Miss Stafford. I'll be much more amenable to listening to what you have to say about the destruction of the house if you don't fib at the very beginning.
I'm not fibbing.
Yeah, sure you are. Because something doesn't make sense, it's not true.
Okay.
And if you call a landlord where you've been a rent-paying customer for 5 years and you say, I'm not giving you any notice, I'm not giving you 30 days notice, I'm not giving you 60 days notice, I'm moving out in 2 weeks. And the landlord says to you, gee, that's really not nice of you after all this time. I've been very good to you. I've given you minimal rent increases over the course of the 5 years. You know, you could have at least given me an extra 30 days notice. You're not giving me any notice. And then she's going to turn around and say to you, and you only have to pay me $310. Ridiculous.
Your Honor, she came to me in the beginning of March and told me that she would be selling the house. That's when I started looking for a place to live because I didn't want to be left out without a place to live.
Listen to what you're saying to me. She gave you notice at the beginning of March that she will be selling the house. Not that she sold it and you have to be out in 2 weeks. So start to prepare yourself.
Absolutely, and I did. And I asked her how long it takes to sell a house. She said, I will be doing it through a paper where he would be paying my mortgage, and then at the end I will just sign the house over to him. It wasn't going to be through a whole real estate or nothing like that.
Did she give you an answer about how long it would take?
No, she did not.
Oh, okay. All right, so now we have $310 that she owes for the month of April. Now, what date did you move out, Miss Stafford?
The 15th.
4/15. And you say you left the house in good condition?
I did.
Okay. When did you go to the house?
I went there on Tuesday, the 19th.
You moved out on the 15th. On the 19th, tell me what you saw.
Well, first, can I just step back 2 days? On April 14th at 7:30, we still had not received any rent at all from them. I sent my husband over there at 7:30 at night. She opened up the door to him. He asked her for the rent. She said his exact words were, I'm not sure if I'm paying you. I'll have to wait and talk to my husband because she's mad over whatever rumors she heard, and shut the door in his face. I went there the next day on Saturday to ask for the rent because she said she would only deal with me, not my husband.
I went there. And that is when we got into the discussion of why she said she was upset about some rumors that she had heard at a diner that I was working at, and that's why she wouldn't pay me. And I said to her, I said, you can't just get mad at me over rumors, and I'm not going to get into any of that. This is between me and you. The diner is completely separate. I said, I'm not telling you you have to move right away. You know, it's going to be 3 months. By the end of this conversation, it lasted almost 2 hours.
You were in the house?
No, she came outside. She was very, very angry, and I could tell she did not want me inside. But by the end of this conversation, she promised me, she looked me face to face and promised me she would give me 30 days notice and that she would give me the full month's rent. And I never heard from her again until I knew the property was empty. When the property was empty and the cops were there is when I said to her...
What date was that?
The cops were there on the 4/18.
On the 18th?
Yep.
And Miss Stafford was there?
She wasn't there at first when they got there. I was there. I had noticed the damage, all the disgusting stuff that was done inside the house.
So you were actually inside the house on the 18th, not the 19th?
Right. I was inside the house on the 18th. That's what the police report is for.
Okay.
And I went in and I saw all the damage, and first thing I did was call the cops for a police report because the place was...
Can I see it?
Completely trashed. I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Okay, so she did in fact pay the $310,
right,
because that's what she told the police they would do, and she also agreed to clean up the mess,
right,
according to the police. Okay, did she clean up the mess?
No, she didn't. She had told me that she would come the next day on Wednesday. She got out of work at, I believe it was 5 or 6. She said she would come over then and help me herself clean it. I said, okay, I'll be over here cleaning anyway. Go ahead and come over. Well, she never came, never showed. I didn't go home till I think like 6:30. She called me and said that she wouldn't be able to come because she had car trouble. I said, okay, you know what, if you want to call me another day, I'll gladly go back over there with you. I don't want anybody there now while I'm not there because of what's already been done. I don't trust anyone else there. But I will go back over there with you whenever you want to clean. And I have not heard from her since to do it.
Do you have photographs of what
Yes,
the
I
place
do.
looked
I have
like?
photographs, I have estimates, I have a video.
First, let's take a look at the photographs.
Would you like the video too?
In a minute. Would you show these to the defendant, please?
It's funny. I'm not finding any of it funny.
Go ahead.
All these attic pictures and all these basement pictures, yes, maybe some of these are stuff that was left from behind.
I'm talking about the refrigerator, the garbage.
No, we put the garbage out. A lot of this stuff came from the attic that her brother destroyed, and it was from a ton of stuff was left up in the attic that I couldn't even use.
I'm not talking about the attic. Let's
Okay,
not talk
well,
about the
that's
attic. Let's talk
pictures
about
of
the
this.
kitchen. Let's talk about the stove.
The stove wasn't hers, and it was broken. She knew it was broken.
What about the garbage?
The garbage is not all mine.
Whose is it?
Which came from the upstairs in the basement that she packed up. Are you kidding me?
You said...
Shh. Refrigerator in the freezer?
No. No.
Food in the refrigerator and the freezer was yours?
Yeah.
The dirty stove inside was
There
you?
was
Listen to me.
Okay.
The stove was used by you for 5 years?
No, it was broken.
So you didn't have a stove for 5 years?
No, not the oven part. The top of it worked, yes. There was a fire at the bottom of it.
When you say that somebody else's stuff was in the basement, whose stuff was in the basement?
Her brother had lived there previously before I did. There was stuff in the basement from him, all of his leftover
That you left
stuff.
there, just a second, that you left there for 5 years?
She brought a dumpster over there and we did clean out. I helped her personally clean out a ton of it, but yes, there was still some left in there.
And so what you're telling me is this mess down here was her brother's stuff that had been there for 5 years?
Absolutely.
Okay, can I see the video, please?
The water on the basement floor is from our washing machine being moved. That I can admit to.
That's not true either. Your Honor, that is where there was a carpet and it was so badly contaminated with urine from cat smell that I had to replace it, and egg yolk that someone egged and candle waxed the inside of the entire house, up and down all the walls. That stove is not, that was not the same stove that was in there. I've gotten her 2 stoves since then and 2 refrigerators. That one she chose to have because her father gave her it. That's a busted out window in the kitchen, busted out one in the back door, which she said her son put his hand through when he was running through the house.
No, I said my son accidentally bumped into the, when he was
your
running
son
into
did
the house,
whatever he did.
he accidentally hit it, and I told you that 3 years ago, and you said you would fix it.
Why didn't you fix it?
She told me she would do it.
And why didn't you fix it?
That's exactly why I didn't, because she told me it was her son.
I'm asking a question. So if your son did it, so why didn't you fix it?
This is graffiti that is written all over the garage by her husband and his band, complaining about neighbors because the cops were called several times due to complaints.
Well, you
of
don't know who
noise.
wrote it.
Well, it's got their names on it.
We didn't do that, Your Honor.
Do you think she did it to her own property?
No, I don't believe that she did it to her own property. And she also told me that she didn't believe that I did it either. And she told me that I was the last one there, so I was the one that she was going to blame because I had no proof that it was anybody else. So I took pictures. There was broken windows as well, pictures of the house that she promised to put siding and to paint. I've lived there for 5 years and she's done nothing.
We're not talking about whether you chose to stay at a place that didn't have new siding for $600 a month. Listen to me quietly. Is what you're saying that the destruction to the house was between the time you moved your things out and the couple of days and she saw it?
Yes.
Well, how do you think somebody got in there?
I believe through the broken window.
You do?
Yes, I do.
You do? That's your responsibility. You should have fixed the broken window.
No, just not that window. The window on the side. Not the one from the door. The window on the side of the house. That I can...
Is what you're telling me, madam, that you lived there for 5 years and nobody vandalized the house, but in 2 days after you moved out, somebody chose those 2 days to come in and do all those things to the house? Is that what you're suggesting to me?
I am. And my mom was there to clean on Easter Sunday, and she cleaned the whole place with my husband. She did all the cleaning. And when I went in there on Tuesday...
She didn't do a good job.
Well, I went in there on Tuesday...
You didn't do a good job of cleaning.
I didn't do a perfect job, Your Honor, but the garbage was out, the eggs were not there, the other things that Vicki is claiming, such as, excuse me, I'll stand, such as the ceiling fan being broken and everything else, that was not there at the time. Maybe I didn't do a perfect job cleaning. It's not my responsibility to clean up after my daughter. I keep my own place clean. But the destruction itself was not there. Some of the more destructive things were not there, okay? That's all I can say.
Maybe she didn't do it. Maybe her did it. I don't know who did it.
I don't either.
But it was done during her tenancy because she was there during the month of April. During the month of April, she is responsible for the house. She was responsible for paying rent for starting April 1st in the amount of $620, and she was responsible to see to it that the house was kept in a reasonable state. Now, who is this person over here?
This is the neighbor that lives across the street from where Kelly resided. When I went in and I saw how much damage was done, I was very distraught. I came out, I was on my cell phone. I called the cops, was back and forth. She was on her way out to work at the same time. She used to live there when I lived there. And she came over and she said to me, Vicki, what's going on?
Okay, step up. Tell me your name.
Jacqueline Bergen.
Ms. Bergen, what do you know about the condition of the house on or about the 15th to the 18th of April?
Well, over the weekend of the 15th, Kelly and her husband and them did move out of the home. On Tuesday, it was probably approximately about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I was backing out of my driveway.
Tuesday is what date?
April 17th, I believe it is.
Okay.
And I was backing out of my driveway, and I had seen Vicki over there in the driveway. She was walking up and down the driveway. She had her cell phone. And I had gone over and I said, hey, Vic, I see your tenants had moved out over the weekend. So Vicki had asked me, she goes, did you see the damage to the house? I says, no. She goes, will you come in with me? I said, sure. And I walked through the whole house with her. She used to have a stepdaughter that lived there. And her...
Who?
Kelly. And my daughter and her daughter used to hang out. Her daughter's name was Brianna. And a lot of that stuff in that attic belonged to Brianna. We found shoes that had Brianna's name written down the side of them. School papers. There was pictures in the attic of Kelly and Chuck. There was CDs from the band that her husband had upstairs in the attic.
And this was on the 17th?
On the 17th. And I'm the one that went through and took pictures with Vicki. And then on the back porch, which there is a picture of, she says all the garbage was removed. It might have been removed out of the house, but it was put onto the back porch and left there. There's empty Budweiser boxes, there's bags of trash. And then on Wednesday, Me and another girl and Vicky were all over there cleaning, and then that's when Alta came over too and started in with the cleaning. And she said that Kelly would be back that night to help us. And Kelly has not been over there since.
Okay, thank you.
Judge Judy?
Yeah.
I did call her and tell her that I would like to give her her keys back and do the walkthrough. I leave her a message.
What date?
This would be on Monday, because Sunday was Easter. 17th?
16th. But she said the 17th
Oh,
was
no,
Tuesday.
no. 17th was Monday.
17th was Monday. So on the 17th, you wanted to do a walkthrough, but you hadn't taken
I called her.
all the
No, I
garbage.
had called her. I had my mom and my husband was over there on Sunday, on Easter Sunday, taking the garbage out. The garbage was to be picked up on Monday morning. I don't know if I was not there. So I don't know if all the garbage had made it out on Monday morning. I called her and left her a message. She called me back and left a nasty message on my phone on Tuesday saying that the cops were there and everything, and I can play it if...
I don't need it.
Okay.
At least some of the stuff that was upstairs in the attic belonged to Brianna. It belonged to her brother. It didn't belong to any of her relatives. I believe her. She has absolutely
And her son, spent the night in my house every weekend. He can contest that. She knows that my house was not dirty, and I was...
Listen to me. I think that you left the house a mess.
Okay.
I think that there was a lot of messy stuff left there. And I also think that either you, your son, your husband, or whatever did some nasty writing on the wall. There's no question in my mind that that happened. Now, that isn't worth thousands of dollars. That's worth a good cleanup. And if you had, at the time of your tenancy, had a security deposit, that security deposit probably, or should have been, something like 2 months' rent.
Right.
So at the time that you started, your rent was $590. Is that right?
Yes.
$1,180 plus the $320 that you owe her.
Your Honor, if I may show you just estimates as to what the damage exactly
Listen to me.
is.
When you rent a house to somebody, you have a responsibility. Your responsibility is to see to it ongoing that there isn't the kind of damage that you claim exists over 5 years. Okay. And you're not going to wait until the end of the tenancy and say, I want new carpeting, I want new appliances, I want the place freshly painted. You have to do that. That's what an owner does to their property. But certainly someone who leaves the apartment should leave it broom swept, clean, and in reasonable condition. I'm not talking about new carpeting, cleaning the carpeting, doing anything like that. And you have to be a little vigilant, because if what you say is that she was a friend of yours, you should have been in that house more frequently at the end of every year to see to it what was done. And you can't tell me now, after 5 years, that you want a whole redo on your house, but you're entitled to have it left clean. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's all, Steph.
Frances Garcia is suing her mother, Joan LeGrand, for the unpaid interest on a loan. Frances says her mother has a gambling problem.
Miss Garcia, Miss LeGrand is your mother.
Yes.
And some time ago you made a loan to her, a loan which she acknowledges. It's a loan for, I think, $1,500. Is that right?
Yes.
And she paid you back the loan?
No, not fully.
How much does she owe on the loan?
The loan itself, it's $100 or $200.
You said $100 or $200. Well, this is a court. Be specific. Does she owe you $100 or $200?
Let me check here, so I can be specific. $100 difference.
It was a $1,500 loan. She paid you back $1,400.
Mm-hmm.
What did you need the money for, Miss LeGrand?
Well, Your Honor, I had some court-ordered debt that it needed to be paid to Sacramento, and to me that was a very urgent matter and needed to be taken care of, and that's why I got the loan from her to pay them.
Do you agree that you owe her the $100 on the original loan?
If she says I still owe her $100, I guess maybe I am $100 short, because the last payment that I made to her was $200, and I believe it should have been $300.
Okay. So you acknowledge that perhaps you owe her $100. She says that you do. But she doesn't want $100. She wants $1,600. You're going to tell me why.
Because my mother at the bingo hall came up to me, you can see this on the bingo paper, with this, and she said, Dee, can you read this and then let me know something? Well, per her contract, it states here, $500 for court fines. Then it also says $500 that she owes the state. Well, then her total at the bottom is $1,500. I said, Mom, what do you need the other $500 for? Oh, miscellaneous. I said, oh, it's for Jackson, right? Because she likes to go gamble in Jackson outside of the bingo hall.
Okay.
So, anyways, per her contract, it says, if you would like to read it, Judge, the payment would be paid as follows. It's here starting May the 3rd, $200.
Just a second. She acknowledges she owes you $100 on the original $1,500 loan.
Yes.
But you want $1,600.
Yes, because that's why I loaned her the money. She agreed to pay me $3,000 back.
So she agreed to pay you double the loan, 100% interest. Is that right? And that's what you want?
That's what I want.
When did you make her the loan?
On April 26th.
Of what year?
Of 2005.
And when did she finish paying you the $1,400?
When did I have to press her to finish paying me?
When did she pay you?
Let me see. She did not pay in August 3rd because she spent it in Las Vegas.
Listen to me.
Okay, I did hear your question. But
listen to me. If you heard my question, give me the answer. When did she finish paying?
The 18th.
Of what month?
August.
Now, did you have a reasonable relationship with your mother before?
Outside of being her banker, no. We just talk whenever we see each other.
The laws of this country, in each jurisdiction, preclude, do not allow people to charge usurious interest rates.
She made the contract.
Listen, I want you to open up, put on your listening ears.
They're here.
Courts will not enforce a contract with usurious interest rates. They're against the law.
Okay, fine. Well,
good. Then she owes you $100.
I don't feel that's correct because even if you use a credit card to get the money, there are 22.99% interest.
And?
So what's the difference? She's not paying me any interest. I didn't loan it to her just as a gift.
Let me tell you what the law says, just so that you're aware of it.
Please enlighten me.
I'm going to enlighten you, and I'm going to do it quickly because I have other fish to fry today. The law says that if you make a contract that's against the law, and it is against the law to charge too much interest, then the courts will not enforce that contract with any interest.
Oh, it's nice to know the law.
Good. Now you know it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $100, which you acknowledge you owe her. That's all.
19-year-old Ashley Baum is suing her former live-in boyfriend, 20-year-old Ross Welty, for utility bills and rent. Ross says Valerie destroyed his belongings.
Yeah, this is case number 345 on the calendar, the matter of Baum versus Welty. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Ms. Baum, you and Mr. Welty lived together for a while. You signed a 6-month lease, and then you moved out.
Yes.
Leaving a couple of months left to go on the lease, you believe Mr. Welty should be responsible for paying the rent on the apartment.
Yes.
Mr. Welty says that you left. It was not your agreement.
He kicked me out.
He's paid enough. And he says that you came back into the apartment when he was not there and vandalized the apartment. He knows it was you because you admit, to which you are responding yes. Did you vandalize his apartment?
Yes.
When did you vandalize his apartment?
Like 2 days after I moved out.
Why did you vandalize his apartment?
Well, because in our lease it said that he was not allowed to have anybody else move in, and he had his friend move in. And so I took his friend's stuff and I put it outside.
Why wouldn't you want his friend to move in to be responsible for half the rent?
Because he wasn't paying. He would not pay the rent at all.
Who would not?
He wouldn't and his friend wouldn't.
How do you know that?
Because he wasn't working.
What about his friend?
He was barely working.
So you took his friend's stuff and you put it outside where?
In the parking lot.
You can't do that. Not a nice thing to do.
I know.
Well, at least you told me the truth. You see that? Did you do anything else in the apartment while you were there?
No.
Didn't rip out anything with a knife or anything else?
It was my stuff.
What did you rip with a knife?
Pillowcase.
What were you in such a bad mood about, Miss Baum?
That was the day I moved out of the apartment, and I just got off of work. He wasn't working at all. As soon as I came home, he was like, well, I'm going out. I told him he wasn't, and he left anyway. He called my dad, and my dad came and picked me up, and I moved out of the apartment.
Now, Mr. Welty, you weren't working.
Oh, man.
Is there any reason why you weren't working?
Just couldn't exactly find a job that I wanted to keep.
Well, who'd you expect to support you?
I didn't expect nobody to support me at all.
Well, somebody's had to pay the rent. Who was paying the rent?
She was.
That means she was supporting you.
Yeah, until that point.
Well, then, listen to me, Mr. Welty. How old are you?
20.
You want me to think that you're an intelligent young man, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
When somebody's paying your bills, they're supporting you. Why should this young lady support you?
Well, I gave her money.
You're not that cute.
I gave her money all the way up to the time I kicked her out in June.
How much money did you give her?
Half the rent, $320.
Even when you weren't working?
Yeah.
So let's say you gave her half the rent up until the time you, according to you, kicked her out. And if you kicked her out of the apartment, I assume you kicked her out because you said, I'm going out with my friends, and she says, no, you're not, because you're not working, I'm working. And when I come home, I don't want you to tell me you're going out hanging around with your friends. I assume that's what was going on in your head.
Yes.
And what was going on in your head is nobody controls me, I go where I want to go.
Nah, she's crazy.
Well, that's not crazy, sir.
No.
Let me tell you something. If I had a boyfriend who was laying home eating bonbons all day, watching soap operas and Judge Judy at the appropriate time, and I came home from working all day and he said to me, I'm going to hang out with my buddies,
It wasn't
really,
like that,
listen
though.
to me,
It was not like that.
it would really annoy me.
But it wasn't like that. She'd come home, I would go out, I'd come back home, she'd break everything.
Well, why did you think she was mad at you, sir?
Because I'd go out for an hour with my friends.
Where'd you go?
It would just be like my dad's house, usually. That's where I always go, to my dad's. And she don't like me going to my dad's house. She don't like me going nowhere.
Oh, you should be happy if you went to Mars.
Well, I was working
Listen
3
to
jobs.
me, and you got a hot temper anyway. You know, I could tell, Miss Baum, that you got a hot temper because you went inside and you cut up the joint. So, but bottom line is, you told her to leave. You called her father and said, come and get her.
Yeah, basically.
Well, then if that's what you did, then you're responsible for the rent.
I don't think I'm responsible for really anything, because the way she is.
Well, you're wrong there.
I
You're wrong there, Prince.
don't think so.
Let me tell you something. If you have an apartment and you sign a lease, a 6-month lease, and you throw out, lock out, get rid of the person who is responsible for the other half of the rent, you pay for it yourself. Now, who did you move in?
I didn't move anybody. My friend James was going to stay with me for like 2
Good.
nights.
So James was going to stay with you, not because you were afraid of the dark, right?
No. Because he just moved back from Colorado at the time. He's right. That was it. He was not going to stay longer than that. And she knows that.
What kind of work did you do?
I did security.
They should have more stringent licensing laws for security people. How old were you when you left school? Quiet! How old were you when you left school?
17.
Did you graduate?
Yes, ma'am.
After you graduated, what did you do?
Worked at Walmart for a while, and then I did security.
What kind of security do you work?
Industrial, like shipyards.
Why weren't you working last year?
Because, well, I quit that job, so I went to England in March.
What did you go to England for?
That's where my mother lives.
How long did you stay?
2 weeks.
How much you stuck for on the time that was left on the lease?
It was $3,675.09.
For how many months?
From July till September, and then June.
When did you move out?
June 1st.
When did the lease expire, in December?
July 15th.
You moved out in June?
Yes.
So that's a month.
She never took her name off the lease.
He didn't go to the leasing office. We're supposed to sign a paper saying we're moving out 2 months before, and he never went and did that. So we had 2 more extra months of rent to pay.
She never got her name taken off the lease at all.
Taken. She never got herself taken off the lease.
Mm-hmm.
When did you know she had not taken her name off the lease?
She has never, I mean...
Did you know that all along?
Yeah, I still
Shut
talk to her.
speak. Just listen to me.
I still
Just
talk to her
answer
every
my
day.
questions. Don't speak until I ask you a question. Then you answer the question, then I ask you another question. Do you understand? When did you know that she was still liable on the lease? Did you know it all the time?
Yes, ma'am.
When you decided to stay beyond July, you stayed in August?
I told her...
So listen to me. Just answer my question. Did you stay in August?
For like half the month.
That's August. Did you pay August's rent?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
Because I told her that she could have the apartment. I didn't want to be there. I wasn't even living there myself.
You just said you stayed there until
No, my
mid-August.
stuff was... I never stayed there.
If your stuff is there, you're there, Prince.
I
If
told
your
her she could
stuff
move
is
back
there,
in.
you're there.
I told her she could move back in, so I didn't want to be there.
Oh, you are such an idiot. It's really very, very hard. Who do you work for now?
What I work for now, it's a golf course.
Doing what?
Customer service. Just drive around the golf cart all day.
That sounds like a perfect job for you. Miss Baum, I want you to listen to me very carefully. He may be responsible for 4 months. I'm only charging him for 3. I'm charging you for a month for your stupidity in hooking up with him.
She still does, by the way.
Does she?
Yeah,
No.
she still does. 2 weeks ago.
Well, I want to tell you something, Mr. Welty. I don't get it. There must be something in your cologne that I don't get from here to there. Because quite frankly, Miss Baum, I don't get it. Is what he's telling me accurate, that you two socialized 2 weeks ago? Is that what you're telling me?
We socialized, but not anymore. I'm over it.
All I want to know is, did you socialize with him 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
I should have charged you for more than the month. Sometimes you got to pay for being dumb. Understand that?
Yes.
So if you got to pay a month's rent, you got to pay for a month's rent. You should have taken your name off the lease. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,920. Who is this?
My mother.
I can't say to you, go home and give her a good beating. You know, she's too big for that. But somebody's got to put some sense into her head.
Can I say something?
Yes.
My husband hired him to work for us so that he would have a job. He couldn't even keep that.
Listen to me. He's challenged. He can't help himself. He really can't help himself. He's going to find his own water level. Right now, driving around in a golf cart sounds perfect for him. And your daughter, if she's working 3 jobs and trying to make something of herself, then you should be very grateful that he's out of the picture. The only problem is she keeps going back for some unearthly reason. I'm just trying to figure out what the reason is.
Me too.
Well, then try to convince your daughter that this is not something that she wants to attach herself onto. Because if she attaches herself onto somebody who's challenged, she's going to have children who are challenged. God forbid. That's all. Step out.
Kenneth Kip Panett claims former friend Stacy Schwartz took his car without permission and damaged it. Kenneth says Stacy not only ruined the transmission and clutch, but she also popped one of his tires.
Mr. Panett, you were at a party with the defendant. I assume she was a friend of yours, and it is your claim that she took your car without permission and wrecked it.
She didn't wreck it. She hit a curb and blew out a tire, and the transmission went out.
And Ms. Schwartz says that she had an unfortunate accident and that she might clearly be responsible for replacing a tire, but certainly not the transmission, since she had your permission and this accident was clearly not her fault.
Well, she did not have my permission.
Good. So let's go back. When was this party that you had?
A couple of months ago. It was a Friday night. It was at my house, and
Listen, Mr. Panett, how old are you, sir?
23.
What do you do for a living?
I am a market analyst.
Ever been to court before, sir?
No, except for traffic tickets and...
Well, that's court. So, if you're a plaintiff and you have a claim, first thing you figure out is what date.
Yes, Your Honor.
Because the questions get harder after that, Mr. Panett. So, a couple of months ago on a Friday night isn't a date.
I believe the date was December 14th, Your Honor.
That's a date. Now, it was on December 14th, 2006. Where were you?
At my house.
Who else was there?
I don't know the exact names, but a bunch of my friends.
And what were you all doing?
Drinking, watching TV, listening to music.
Great. Having a good time. Being responsible.
Yes.
What happened next?
Well, I didn't keep track of everybody around that night. I went to bed maybe around 1 or 2, and the next morning, Stacy called me and said that my car was broken down. I said, you know, how could that be? It should be in front of my house. And she said she was in Sunrise, which is about 20 miles away.
Where do you live?
Downtown Sacramento.
Go ahead.
She said it was broken down. She explained to me that she had taken my car the night before and that it had broken down the night before and that she had spent the night and was calling me in the morning. And I was...
Spent the night where?
At one of her friend's house, I assume.
Okay.
And I explained to her that she had better get my car back to me.
What kind of car do you have?
It's a Nissan Sentra.
Year?
1997. And she said she would. We exchanged words. I was a little upset, and then I fell back asleep. I didn't get my car back until the next day. She had it towed back to my house. At first, she hadn't even told me that a tire had blown out. I did see that for myself when it came to my house. Then she explained that to me. I had not given her permission to drive the car, so I was very upset.
Okay. Don't repeat anything.
Okay.
I have other things to do. Are you finished?
She had told me that she would pay for all damages. She was very apologetic at first, and I had it diagnosed, and she refused to pay it. She said she's not responsible for that.
You had it diagnosed. What was the bill?
It was $1,500, $1,593.83. I'd originally said $1,600. It's I'd rounded when I looked at the receipt. It's actually $6.17 less than that.
Mr. Panett, How did you pay for this?
My father loaned me the money to pay for it, actually.
Did you pay for it in check or cash, sir?
I believe my father used his credit card to pay for it, and I had to pay my father back.
What's your father's name?
John Panett.
His phone number?
It's in my cell phone, I'm sorry.
Ferg, would you please get his cell phone so that we can get the father's number, please? Thank you. And he's going to verify that he paid this bill, sir?
Yes,
when I
he
call
would.
him on the phone? Good. We're going to do that in a minute.
Okay.
Now, I'll hear you, Miss Swartz.
On December 14th, I was hanging out at Kip's house, and I asked him if I could borrow his car to go over to Jessica's house.
Where does Jessica live?
A few blocks from his house.
And he said?
He said yes, he let me borrow it.
Good. So you understand, Miss Swartz,
That's a different place than she was. Excuse me, Your Honor.
You do understand, madam, that you did have limited authority to take his car to go to Jessica's house, which is a few blocks away. You understand that?
Yes. Yeah.
Now tell me what happened.
I drove over to Jessica's house and told her that I was using Kip's car, and she called me at 5 o'clock in the morning and woke me up.
At Jessica's house?
Yes. And told me she was drunk and stranded in Sunrise, so I didn't even think to call Kip and ask permission because he let me borrow his car. He knew I wasn't...
No, my dear.
He knew I wasn't going to bring it back until the morning, so I...
Darling!
Yes.
You get it now? You look as if you're smart enough to get where I'm going.
Yes, ma'am.
You went to pick up your friend in Sunrise. And
yes.
How far is Sunrise from Jessica's house?
Approximately 20 miles.
20?
Miles.
Miles, not blocks, miles. And it was coming back with her, this drunken friend of yours, that you had the accident.
Yes.
Now tell me about the accident.
I was just driving and I was coasting, so I was in neutral, and then I tried to put it into gear and it would not go into gear, and I went to park immediately and I hit the curb and popped the tire. That was probably about 5:30, 6 o'clock.
You must have hit the curb very hard.
Well, yes, it was hard enough to pop the tire, and I immediately changed the tire, and since it was about 5:30 in the morning, my friend that I picked up just walked to her house because we were about a block away, and I slept in the car and called Kip about 9 o'clock in the morning to tell him that I was going to get his car towed back to him.
Let us assume that I believe you, that Mr. Panett said that you could borrow his car to go to Jessica's house, which is a few blocks away, to
Yes.
stay over. When you exceeded his permission by going 20 miles away the next day, you no longer had his permission. Do you understand that?
But he knew I was going to have it till the morning.
Don't tell me what he knew. He gave you permission, according to you, to drive it a few blocks. A few blocks is not 20 miles.
I have my witness here that saw him give me permission.
I just said, don't you have your listening ears on? I said, if I believe you, he gave you permission to take it a few blocks away. Once you took it 20 miles away, you no longer had permission.
Your Honor, he lets me borrow the car all the time.
That's not true.
Just a second. Where do you think you are?
Right here.
Where is here?
In this witness chair.
And until you stand up there, what are you supposed to do?
Listen to you.
Right. Once you exceeded the scope of the permission, you no longer had permission. That's the law. Do you understand it?
Yes.
So all I have to do is deal with the issue of damages. And for that, you're going to give me John's cell phone.
Yes, ma'am. Just let me power it up.
Power it up. John Panett, this is Judge Judy Scheindlin. How are you? I'm very well, thank you. Do you have a moment for just a couple of quick questions for me? I'm here, as you know, trying a case involving your son and this young woman who took his car without permission. Are you familiar with that? Okay. Did he ever ask you for any money to help him repair this car? When was that? 3 months ago. Do you remember how much it cost you, sir? Approximately. And did you use your credit card? Did he pay you back that money? I know, I have children. Did he tell you how it happened? That he needed a new transmission? Was he driving the car? Okay. Very good. And you used a credit card? Okay, great. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you taking the time. Bye-bye now. What a nice father you have, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And as a matter of fact, your father does remember helping you out and paying for this transmission a few months ago.
That's correct.
Do you know what he doesn't remember?
What?
He doesn't remember you paying him back.
Well, I owe him money pretty much all the time, and I am always paying him. So I'm in the process
that he
of
doesn't
paying
remember. I mean, he does remember laying this money out for you, but he doesn't remember the fact that you paid him.
I have not fully paid him back, Your Honor. I apologize.
Well, how much have you paid him, sir?
Well, I owe him a total of quite a bit more than that. So I guess if you got down to that bill, I haven't paid him any because I'm paying him for things that I owe him.
Well, you have no objection to making the check payable to your father, do you?
No, not at all.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,593.83 to be made payable to John Panett. Thank you very much. That's all.
Lee Ikuzi says former friend Dean Pottle assaulted him. Dean claims he was only protecting himself.
Ms. Ikuzi, it is your claim that the defendant assaulted you. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Before we get started, my pronoun is he. I made that clear. My name is Lee, and my pronoun is he. And
I didn't see that. I have Lisa.
Yeah, also known as Lee Ikuzi.
Okay.
I'm a trans.
It is your claim that the defendant assaulted you, Mr. Ikuzi, and the defendant says that quite the contrary, it was you who assaulted him. How do you know each other?
I met Dean Pottle when I was the Portland International Hostel manager, and I was in charge of the facilities at the time, and I also lived there. Dean came to my residence at the hostel looking for work. He was actually homeless at the time, and I took him in.
All right, so that's how you met him.
Yep.
When did this alleged assault take place?
April 2nd, 2005.
Tell me the circumstances, please.
I had a business transaction with Dean Pottle that failed. He was supposed to do a plumbing job for me in exchange for me mowing a lawn for him. I also had $1,000 with the oil paintings in his house that we were going to exchange for him to do plumbing services. I went over to his house 2 times. Both times I brought my witness, and on the second time I was assaulted.
Tell me how you were assaulted.
I brought my friend Buddy. There was a driveway that separated Buddy, Dean, and myself. I was leaning back on the car that was separated about 4 feet of driveway to Dean's house. Dean was arguing with Buddy. I told Dean that I was going to tell everybody that he's bisexual, and he ran 2 big full steps. It just pushed his arm, swung me around into the car.
Just a minute, you went very quickly.
Yes.
You said you ran 2 steps?
No, I was leaning against the car here, and there was Dean's house.
Just a second. First you threatened to tell people that he was a bisexual?
Right, because he harassed me.
How was he harassing you when you came to his house?
I was at his house to collect money and my oil paintings.
I didn't hear how he was harassing you.
He harassed me 3 days before, and I was still upset about the incident. And
How did he harass you 3 days before?
I was at his house. I was massaging his hands. He went into the bathroom to take off his shirt to massage his shoulders. He came out butt naked and asked me to play with his...
So then why would you go back to his house?
Well, I brought a witness with me because I had $1,000 worth of paintings that
Did you get your paintings?
The second time that I arrived at the defendant's house, I did get my paintings.
Then what I'm asking you is, why did you have any exchange with him at all if you had your paintings?
On the day, within the hour of the assault, at the beginning of the assault, I came in, brought a friend, asked him to go get my paintings, which I needed.
So we went and got your paintings?
Right. While I was getting my paintings, Dean came outside.
Just a second. Your paintings are in the car? If all 3 of you were there...
Paintings are in the car.
So now they're in the car.
Right.
Why aren't you in the car leaving?
Because he owes me more money. He owes me money.
Untrue.
He owes money from doing a plumbing job that he refuses to pay me. So I'm asking for my money. He refuses to pay me.
Put your hand down, please.
He refuses to pay me. And we have a verbal exchange. We've been friends for 7 years. I was really upset at what he did to me. I'm going through this transition. I felt he was taking advantage of me.
Keep going.
And words were exchanged. He walked 2 steps up to me and pushed me into a car. I swung back and got him off me. And
when you swung back, you hit him.
Well, he was on top of me. He was on top of me. He pushed me into a car, and he was on top of me.
How was he on top of you?
I have fingerprints. He pushed me like this, and he was on top of me right here when he pushed me. I leaned back, and I hit him.
I only defended myself.
Let me hear what happened, sir.
Well, when I followed him out with the paintings, and the car was out on the street, and I stood back at my driveway, probably 20 feet away from the car. When he went toward the car to put the paintings in the street, she came out of the vehicle and came toward me. Now, she was nowhere near a vehicle. Now, she came toward me very aggressively and yelling profanities and everything else, so I instinctively put my hand out to defend myself. And when she came close to me, I went like this and said, "Get out of Portland," because I felt she didn't belong in our environment there. And I turned to look at him, and he says, "Oh, you touched her first." And when I looked back, she went, bam, like this, right against my lip here. And I staggered back, yelled at me, and that's when she left.
First of all, sit up. Second of all, don't speak until I speak to you.
Okay.
Do you have a photograph of your injury?
No, I don't.
Do you have a photograph of your injury?
I have documentation of medical records.
I'd like to see it, please. Now you can step up, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Tell me your name.
My name is Buddy Bercu.
Spell your last name.
B-E-R-C-U. It's Romanian.
Left hand, left arm,
Kind of
Bruce.
difficult the first time. Anyways.
All right, now I ask questions.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
I ask questions.
Please.
The paintings are in the car.
Okay, the paintings are in the car. I come back. He comes out, and the car is parked right by the driveway.
Who's in the car?
No one's in the car. They're both arguing with each other, and I'm like, okay, let them vent a little bit and get some of this out, because
Just a second.
I
Where
don't want to
were they
intervene.
as you were putting the paint? I'm speaking. You're not paying attention
When they
to
were
me.
putting
You're
the paintings were already in the car, you said.
Listen to me.
Okay,
Listen. Try
I'm trying.
putting on your listening ears.
I will.
You're putting the paintings in the car,
That's correct.
and he's letting you take the paintings.
That's correct.
Now, the last of the paintings is in the car, right?
That's correct.
Why didn't you both get in the car and leave?
Because, Your Honor, this isn't about that. It's about the disrespect and the way that the abuse had gone down in the first place, and he had not
You're
said
talking
he was
about
sorry.
this incident 3 days before that Lee has just described to me.
Apparently, Lee hadn't worked through the whole incident yet, Your Honor.
Then he was angry.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Got it. See how easy it is to get to the truth?
Can I give you some more truth, or do you want?
Can I get to the truth?
Be quiet.
Absolutely. Can you give me some more bald facts, sir?
Yes, sir.
I
Yes, ma'am.
determine what the truth is.
I understand that.
You understand?
You're the judge.
Okay. So far, we have somebody who wanted their paintings, made 3 trips, got the paintings, but according to you and your Lee's witness, Lee wasn't finished being angry about something that happened 3 days before and wanted an apology.
That's correct, Your Honor.
I got
And then what happened was he said, instead of, "I have a restraining order on you," or "get out of my property," he said, "get out of Portland," which I thought was a little bit wide of a swath for his powers. I mean, Portland's a big
Yes.
place. And then he approached, what he did was he just said, basically, "Get out of Portland, get out of Portland." And the third "get out of Portland," he rushed like he was doing a shot put. And just the whole body, everything came through, but not upward, but straight, like a thrust, and hit. And I could see that she grimaced in pain, and she was crying out. And then what happened simply is a counterattack just to save face. Because I would imagine transitioning to become a man, you have to prove to other men you're a man. So that's why I stayed away from this up until this point. I didn't feel there was any danger up to that point where I had to intervene. I got some heat for that. Say, well, I should have just kicked his, I wasn't going to do that. So anyway, I don't think violence solves anything. And at any rate, what happened was he said, "You can't hit me," or "You can't hit me, I'll kill you," or something. I don't remember what it was exactly. Something to that effect. Just was really surprised that Lee would counterattack. And then I just stepped in and said, "Look, you hit Lee first." And just kind of diffused him.
Did you see his bloody lip?
No, he had no bloody lip. There's no. It was the hand. She was like like this because it was not a closed fist, and I never use a fist because you could not close
I
it.
might ask interested whether you use a fist.
But I'm just saying, You can hurt your hands.
Okay. Shh, I'm not interested in whether you use a fist or not. It's not particularly relevant here.
I want you to stop. You're going to be making a fool of yourself. I want you to stop.
Shh.
I apologize.
You're killing me.
Right.
When was the first time that you were prescribed Vicodin?
I've had an ongoing neck and condition.
Right, I see that. So you had all kinds of problems that you were prescribed Vicodin for and all kinds of other pain medication.
Right.
Listen, you both behaved badly. You're not supposed to hit her. She's not supposed to come onto your property aggressively, which is exactly what she did. You're not supposed to push her. You're not supposed to punch him. It's over. Finished. Who has an order of protection? Either one of you?
I'm going to get one from both of them.
Well, that's a very, very good idea, sir.
Thank you.
And do me a favor, get one for me, too. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. Diana Maddox is suing her ex-boyfriend, Charles Darnell, for the return of Christmas gifts she left in his home. Charles says the gifts went missing.
Ms. Maddox, according to your complaint, you dated the defendant for many months. And the beginning of December of last year, you went Christmas shopping together. You purchased some items, some of which you left at his house. Those items that you left in his house, according to you, were Christmas presents for your grandchildren.
Yes.
And some other items. Sometime in mid-December, you broke up. And you claim that Mr. Darnell refuses to give you back the property that you left at his house. Mr. Darnell says that he has none of your property, that you must have come to the house to get it because you had a key to the house, and after you broke up, you came home, found your stuff gone. So he assumes that you took the Christmas presents, and that one of the items that you're suing for is a welder.
Yes.
And the welder, he says, was a gift to him from you.
No.
So let's start with the welder, so that would make things easy. When Mr. Darnell did you get the welder?
Sunday, December 3rd.
Now, was that a Christmas present?
Yes, it was.
Okay, tell me the circumstances surrounding that, Mr. Darnell.
We had went Christmas shopping. I had previously, on November 24th, I had paid to have a remote starting system put on her car for her Christmas present, and this was in return for my Christmas present.
So you had a remote put in her car. How much was that?
$187.20.
And how much was the welder?
I don't remember the exacts, but I would say the welder was in the $120 range. Plus, there was some accessories bought with it.
$178.75, Your Honor.
Now, tell me about this remote starter that he put in your car in November.
I asked for a Christmas gift of the remote start for my car.
And he put that in?
He did.
So he put that in as a Christmas present to you?
Yes.
And you bought this welder as a Christmas present for him?
No, I bought the welder as a Christmas gift for my son.
I don't believe you.
My son requested it.
Mr. Darnell, when she gave you the welder, what did she say?
Merry Christmas.
That's... Your Honor, that's not true.
Was it unwrapped?
It had never been wrapped.
Okay, let's leave out the welder for a moment, Miss Maddox. Let me hear about the Christmas presents.
On November 4th is when I actually started my Christmas shopping, and we had went to Sam's Club together, and for my two grandchildren, I had bought two TJ Berry Tales. They're animated learning teddy bears. The teddy bears actually read to my grandchildren. I purchased them for $128.10.
Why did you leave it at his house?
Because the animated teddy bears, some of the stuff was electrical, and I didn't want to leave it out in my vehicle overnight.
Okay, I see. Now, all the stuff that you purchased, that you left at his house, comes to how much, exclusive of the welder?
$479.30, or 38 cents, excuse me.
On what date did you break up?
December 9th.
According to your complaint, you tried to work things out on December 17th.
I had called and left a message on December 16th to talk to him.
Mr. Darnell.
I returned the phone call. She was argumentative, and I just didn't feel that I wanted to contend with it at that time.
Or at all?
Or at all.
So you didn't see her on December 17th?
No.
What happened on December 9th, sir?
We was supposed to go to her job Christmas party that evening, which I had already been to my business and taken care of stuff, and I got a call back. I had to go back due to an equipment problem. I tried to get a hold of her for over an hour, and she couldn't be gotten a hold of. And I finally did get a hold of her and told her that I couldn't go to the Christmas party, and she become upset about it. So I just finally told her that I think we needed to part company.
Okay. Now, at that time, these Christmas presents were at your house?
Yes, they were.
Where were they in the house?
They were in the living room.
And when did you find them missing, sir?
December the 18th.
Tell me about that.
I got home from work at approximately 4 p.m. and I noticed the stuff was gone, and there was a few of her personal effects that was gone out of the bathroom. And
what kind of personal items were in the bathroom?
Basically just cosmetic stuff.
And that was gone?
Yes.
Other than that, did she have anything else in your home?
No.
No clothes?
No.
So just the Christmas presents and some items in the bathroom, and that
Correct.
was gone. And when for the first time, Mr. Darnell, did Miss Maddox call you and say she wanted these Christmas presents?
On Thursday, December 21st.
Where did she reach you?
She called me on my cell phone.
And what did she say to you?
That she wanted her belongings back, and I asked her how I can give something back that I don't have.
And what did she say?
She said I was a liar. So the next thing I know, she was at my house with a Muskingum County deputy. She tried to make the deputy let her into my home, and I wouldn't let her in the home. And then he asked me about the welder. I said, yes, I do have the welder, but it was given to me as a gift. And he basically told her that was the end of it because it was given to me as a gift.
You have the police report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to take a look at it, please.
It's not actually a report, it's a log where they showed up.
When you called the police, Miss Maddox, to accompany you, what did you tell them?
I told them that I saw him loading things into his car and I needed assistance to make sure that he didn't take off with the teddy bears. I thought it was the TJ Berry Tails.
When did you see him putting things in the back of his car?
On the 21st of December. I had called him, left him a message. He called me back, told me I would never get my belongings back. I had 3 CDs in my car. I didn't want.
That was on the 21st?
This is on the 21st. So I went to his house anyway. I handed him the CDs because I didn't want them. I said, could I please get my stuff? And he said, you'll never get your stuff. So I left. I went to some pawn shops. Hope maybe he had sold them. I could maybe buy them back for my Christmas presents. And they wasn't at the pawn shops. So there's a school behind his house, and for some reason, I pulled behind there and I saw him loading 2 boxes into the back of his car. And I thought they were the TJ teddy bears. I really wanted them for my grandchildren. So I called the deputies to help me get them.
Did they look in his car?
No. They said it was property. That's why they didn't. Because at that point on me, I did not have the receipts.
I have to make a judgment as to whether or not you're telling me the truth. What do you think I'm going to decide?
You'll probably rule in her favor.
I will. Do you know why?
Why?
Because she's telling me the truth. That's why. Because I've been in this business for 40 years. And that's why I can tell who's telling the truth and I can tell who's lying. And there isn't a question in my mind that this lady would not have come to court today unless she felt as if you did the wrong thing by keeping her grandchildren. It may have been other things, you know. There were other things other than gifts for her grandchildren. Maybe she would have let it slide. But it really irritated her that because you broke up in a way that was unpleasant, you took her property, which I believe. I don't know what you did with it. You sold it. You have grandchildren. Maybe you gave it to your grandchildren. Maybe you gave it to your friend's grandchildren. Maybe someplace. Maybe you donated it to children. Who knows what you did with it? But there is no question in my mind that you had her property. The welder is yours, Mr. Darnell. I honestly believe you when you said to me that she gave you that as a quid pro quo for putting the starter in her car. And it was an early Christmas present, but not the toys. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $479. That's all.
18-year-old Lawrence Johnson is suing the mother of his former friend, Tina Venable, for the balance on a Toyota 4Runner. Tina says Lawrence sold her a salvaged vehicle.
All right, Mr. Johnson, this is your complaint.
Yes, ma'am.
You sold Mrs. Venable a 4Runner truck that you had used throughout high school to get to and from school, and you sold her that for her son.
Yeah.
Who you knew throughout high school.
Yeah, for a couple of years I did.
How much did you sell her the truck for?
$2,500.
And Miss Venable doesn't deny that. Is that right?
That's correct.
But then you didn't listen to your parents, because your parents said to you, when you sell a car, you get paid.
Unfortunately, yes, ma'am.
And what you did was you agreed to accept payments on this truck.
Yes, ma'am.
A down payment of how much, Miss Venable?
I only had $200 cash that night when he came to the house.
So you gave him the $200 in cash and agreed to make payments in what amount?
$300 for the month of June, $400 July, and the balance in August.
Step up, please. Tell me your first name.
Trevor.
Trevor, had you seen Mr. Johnson driving this 4Runner in school?
Yes, I have.
Had you ever been in the 4Runner?
Yes.
What day did you take possession of the truck?
May 15th. We actually rode in it together that day.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Did you drive it to your house?
I drove him home, actually.
But the truck was driven to your house so that your mother had the opportunity to see it.
Of course, yes.
Did she look at it?
Yes, she looked at it through the window.
Nobody prevented her from coming down and driving in it.
No, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do, Miss Venable?
I work for an automotive dealership.
What do you do for the automotive dealership?
I'm in sales.
So you know, if you're in sales, if you want to buy a used car, you take a ride in it.
Correct.
You didn't?
No, I had reasonable expectation, him being an acquaintance of the family, that it would be as he said.
Really?
I did.
Well, it was as he said, madam. He drove the car in school for 2 years. Not something he purchased and then pawned off on your son, because your complaint is that your son had an accident in the car and totaled it. When?
June 13th.
May 15th and June 13th. Who had possession of the car?
I did.
Who drove the car?
I did.
Tell me about the accident.
I was going camping in the mountains, and I was coming to a corner, and I slowed down, and the wheels locked up, and I slid off the side of the road and rolled.
So you didn't pay him the rest of the car. You say that the car had been damaged.
It was the first opportunity that he'd had to drive the car other than at city speeds, to school and back. It was the first time it had been on a curvy mountain road.
With off-road tires.
Just a second. Why do you think that you don't have to pay him the balance of this car?
Because he knew that this vehicle was damaged. He knew it was a junk title, should have never been rebuilt, and he sold it to me and didn't tell me, didn't disclose that.
Just 1 second. He drove the car for 2 years. Your son drove it for 30 days.
This boy's been a guest in our home. I didn't expect him to lie to me.
Nobody lied to you, madam.
He did. He did not tell me that this
Just
vehicle
a
had
second.
a salvage title.
Nobody lied to you. Did you ask him?
I did.
When you leaned out the window, what did you say to him?
I looked out the window. He didn't show up until almost midnight.
He came with your son.
I'm just saying, it was almost
Miss
midnight.
Venable, start taking responsibility for your own behavior. If you wanted to have the car inspected by somebody who was unbiased, take it to your own shop where you work. Say, listen, take a look at this car. And aside from that, if what you're complaining about was that the car was rebuilt, was it rebuilt by you?
No, ma'am.
Was it rebuilt by somebody else?
I believe so now, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but you drove it.
Yes, ma'am.
With no trouble.
Yes, and
For 2 years.
I actually had it inspected twice before I started driving the car, and I had repairs done to it before I started driving it, and I had no troubles.
Maybe your son wasn't giving you the honest scoop about slowing down at the end of the road. Now, if you wanted to find out that this truck had been rebuilt, which I assume it says on the title, is that right? I'm asking you a question. Does it say that on the title?
The title was clean. It wasn't until I ran a Carfax that I have a copy of here that shows that the vehicle was salvaged and that it was a
Good.
junk
Now,
title.
let me ask you a question. When did you do that?
After the police and the record driver told me that the vehicle there was another reason for the wreck.
Listen to me. Could you have done that before you bought it?
I suppose I could have. But
you're absolutely right. That's what you should. Listen to me. That's what you should have done before you bought it. You chose not to do that. And I am choosing not to say that this young man, knowing that there was a potentially dangerous situation with this car, sold it to you. Because when you buy a used car, it's your responsibility to see to it that it is appropriately inspected and not complain later, especially 30 days later, when your son goes on a camping trip and totals the car. How much does she owe you on the car?
$2,300, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,300. That's all.
James White, fiancée Karen Rundell, owes for a loan to retain a lawyer. Karen says she gave her paycheck to James the entire time they lived together.
Mr. White, you and the defendant lived together, according to the complaint that I've read, for a period of time. And it is your claim that during that time you made a loan to her in the amount of $5,000 as a retainer for an attorney because she was having some legal problems. The defendant says that while she acknowledges that you wired the money into a joint bank account that you had for the attorney, that money was paid back because all that money that was in the joint bank account was put in by both of you subsequently. So the money was repaid.
In my opinion, yes, it was.
When did you start living together, Mr. White?
We started living together in April of '04.
How long had you known each other before you moved in together?
I knew of her approximately a year prior to that.
What does that mean?
Well, I was best friends with her brother and basically met her through her brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you moved in together in April of 2004, did you move into her place, your place, or a mutual place?
My place.
And, Your Honor, it was July of '04.
She's probably right, Mr. White.
Yeah, we had a birthday party for me in April, so yeah, then it was shortly after that. That's correct.
What was the financial arrangement when she moved into your house?
Financial arrangement, we really didn't establish any. I paid my bills and she paid her bills. She did insist that she put her check into my checking account. That didn't have anything to do with this particular item.
Just a second.
Yeah.
She put her paycheck into your checking account.
That's correct.
How much was your paycheck, Ms. Rundell?
$16.88 a month. And it was not a joint checking account. It was his checking account. I did not have access to that account in any way.
When did you make your first deposit into his checking account of $16.88?
I believe it would have been the month of July. I moved in roughly maybe the second week in July after we returned from vacation.
So let's be on the safe side. Let's say August.
That would be safe to say.
And how many months did you put your paycheck into that joint account?
Every month.
Until when?
Until January. My paychecks ended in January. Unemployment
August,
started.
September, October, November, December. 5 months.
And January.